What's up guys, Chaos Shinobi here. This is What If Naruto has the evolved Rinnegan. Summary: Naruto gains a gift from Kami at birth that unlocks before he joins the academy. Naruto had potential to be one of the greatest. The first Rinnegan user started the ninja world, the latest became a god. However, Naruto became something else, something more. Chapter 1, Kami-sama, you called for us? Spoke a man stepping out of a white haze. He had a long white beard and a ripped chest. A young female in her mid-20s and in amazing shape looked up. She smiled brightly for a moment, but if you were watching you could not help but get a feel of instant dread. While looking like a harmless female in her mid-20s, never forget that she controlled life and death in the universe. Everyone was below her and no one dared to attempt to go above her. White mist seemingly continued to appear, bringing out several men and women to sit around a large table. The table looked as if it was made of water, or a liquid like it. The table looked as if its contents were moving, and you could see the bubbles rising in it, yet it always kept its definite table-like shape. Kami looked over everyone gathered. She very rarely called all of them. She was missing one, but she knew why he was running late, the perks of being omniscient. Everyone was silent and most were fidgeting in their seats. She smirked lightly to herself. At least they knew that she needed respect, but she didn't need them being scared shitless this entire meeting. Don't worry all of you, none of you are in trouble. I just wanted to bring you all together to inform you of a plan I have, she said as a great black mist appeared 20 feet from the table. Oh, another plan? Please tell me it will be better than giving the humans chakra this time, Kami-sama. A tall man came out of the mist, long white hair down his back. He wore a toothy grin as he took his seat at the last two remaining seats at the table. Kami sent him a glare. She could start a fight right now, one that she knew she would surely win. However, she had bigger things to talk about. She calmly walked over to the large chair reserved for her and sat down. She gave a smile and said, "Okay, we are here to talk about Shinigami's recent assignment," said man who came out of the black mist instantly paled. She shot him a grin of mock innocence. "Don't worry Shinigami, you are not in trouble. We are here to talk about a specific person involved in your assignment." Every god stared at her waiting for her to continue. She couldn't help but smile lightly. She enjoyed being center of attention. Uzumaki Naruto. Everyone looked at her with a raised eyebrow until she informed people, that is what the boy Shinigami sealed the QB into. There was countless O formations that formed across the mouths of the people at the table in recognition of the boy and the demon. She pursed her lips for a moment and thought of how she should present her proposal. No, not proposal, it was happening regardless. How she would inform them of the change would be a better way to put it. A woman who looked as if you were to look up beauty in the dictionary. Her name would be listed as the definition spoke. "So Kami-sama, what is your idea?" "Well Aphrodite, I have an idea, but I have gathered this meeting because it leaves me most interested." She paused as she looked over the table. She leaned forward in an unladylike manner, hands and forearms pressed against the table. "Let's not get confused, I know everything, there has never been something I have not known." Silence reigned over the table as she spoke. "However, my plan was to give Uzumaki Naruto the Rinnegan. And whenever I look into this plan my vision becomes clouded." This caused many at the table to go wide-eyed. Even the Shinigami raised an eyebrow. The Shinigami spoke up and asked, "Then why are you calling us here? Why not just forget about that idea?" Kami shook her head and sighed. "That's the thing, if I leave the idea the ninja world will die off before Uzumaki Naruto even reaches the age of 17 because no one will be able to destroy Uchiha Madara." Everyone pursed their lips at the table. They remembered him. He caused quite a few meeting. Many brought to them by the Shinigami. His sanity was deteriorating, as his powers were constantly improving. In truth, he would have the mind of a toddler by the time Naruto was 17, yet the powers of an avatar of a god. It was something to be feared, untold power in the hands of someone who doesn't know right from wrong. The large man with a long white beard from before spoke, "Kami, let us know." A massive glare appeared on Kami's face. "Kami-sama to you Zeus." She corrected. Zeus shook off the large chill going down his spine. "Right, Kami-sama. Worlds do die out. Do you really think it is wise for us to hand over the eyes of a god to a child if we don't know everything that will happen? What if he becomes too much to control? The powers of the Rinnegan and QB combined will likely cause many problems for us, maybe even too many." Kami looked incredibly calm and simply relaxed her hands in her lap and looked across the table to Zeus with a smile on her face. "Does that mean that you doubt my power, Zeus?" This time everyone had to shake off the chill. Sometimes they forget they are talking to the most powerful being in the universe. "And no Kami-sama," Zeus stuttered out. Kami grinned. "Good," she snapped her fingers. "He has it." Silence washed over the table. Not many actually got to see Kami work, but for her to seemingly give a child eyes of a god with a snap of her fingers. It was a display of power that not even the Shinigami could claim. Or maybe he could, But this Hinigami had rules and guidelines he had to follow. Kami had none. Inside a kid's body, a large fox had a large grin on his face. A presence he had not felt in years, the Rinnegan in his host's body? This was too good. Time skip, 5 years later. Young Naruto was aimlessly wandering through the forest, goggles on his forehead. He was having a good day for once. He was allowed out of the orphanage today. The Hokage stopped by and demanded that he was allowed to play with this other children his age. Of course, for the people at the orphanage that meant when the Hokage left and his back was turned, Naruto would be allowed outside for the day. He would always then get brought back on the terms that he escaped and ran off. The Hokage had attempted to call them on the lie, but he couldn't justly fire them or punish them, not when 4 other workers would go in and claim the same things backing up the original story. Then a civilian or two would come in saying they saw the boy running down the street. That, however, was the least of his problems right now. He didn't get much to eat in the orphanage. He knew this would be a great place to look and find food. He looked around through various bushes looking for berries, or maybe the luck of finding a rabbit. He looked for nearly an hour, getting rather far from the town, and that's when he heard it. A deep growl from behind him came. He spun around quickly to get a look at what was behind him, only to gain a loud bark from a wolf. Now Naruto hadn't received much teaching, or was told many stories, although he was told a few things. One of those things were, wolves never hunt alone. He paled considerably when he saw a good 6 more stalk out of the bushes. He wouldn't put it past these hunters to put another couple wolves behind him. The thing is, there is a problem hunting humans. They are strong, unpredictable and dangerous. Although these wolves just had the horrible luck. Sure, they attack Uzumaki Naruto. However, they didn't win. It wasn't every day wolves hunted those with the eyes of gods. The remains from the battle were a rather surprise. 9 wolves lay scattered around the forest floor. Some with gashes, some with limbs missing, some with broken necks. Truthfully, none of them had one of the same injuries. In the big picture it didn't matter due to the fact that one thing they all had in common: they're all dead. Naruto didn't remember anything about the battle. The only thing he remembered was the white mist leaving the wolves as they died. He wondered to himself how he was able to see a white mist leave the wolves. To him it sounded quite a bit like chakra, however that only brought up more questions like how could he see chakra? He looked down, blood and flesh was scattered everywhere. His jumpsuit was drenched in blood. Naruto, upon seeing his jumpsuit, decided he needed to wash badly. Now, that scene of the wolves would not be found for days. However, if they found Naruto at the same time along with the wolves, they would likely ask why he is covered in his own blood. Naruto ran his hands through his hair and he sat in the stream that was a couple feet deep. The water was slightly warm to his enjoyment. That was always one of the nice thing about Fire Country. The streams were never ice cold if they were under the sun. Blood washes off his suit constantly. The water darkening behind him. He in truth hadn't had a bath in a long time, maybe a good couple weeks. Although he didn't get that dirty, because he was normally locked up in a room with a single window of the 2nd floor most of the day. He took his goggles off his eyes to wash the blood of them, but when he looked in the stream he saw something that surprised him. Every now and then when the water was flat, he would see his reflection. He had gray concentric ripple-like circles around the pupil. In truth, it looked a lot like someone who had thrown something into water. The spot where the object hit the water was the pupil, and the ripples going outwards from the landing were the rings. At least, that's what his young mind thought of when he saw it. He at first thought they were some problem with his eyes, possibly blood had gotten into them. He soon wrote that off upon realizing that he had his goggles on the entire time. It took a long time, and going through many different ideas until his young mind found one that fit. He saw people in Konoha with weird eyes all the time. Sometimes they were white, other times they were black or red. Maybe he was just going to join that group of people. It gave him a giddy feeling inside until he mellowed out. Yes, the thought of belonging was something that he always wanted. Yet, those two groups of people had always stepped aside when he was getting chased by people, never bothering to help him. Another though occurred to him as he said to himself, what if they think these eyes make me even more of a freak? He was silent for a moment. His dream was to be accepted by the people of his village. Now his dream could have very well become harder. He should have stayed inside today. The only good news about the entire situation was the academy was starting tomorrow, and he would likely be getting a new home closer to the academy. He slipped on his goggles and made sure no one would see his eyes as he ran back to town, completely soaked. Unknown to him, a female up in the tree gave a small as he ran off. She then disappeared in a flash of white light. It was not every day a young boy had a god take interest in them and watch over him. Naruto went to his first day at the academy. He received a bunch of glares from the teachers. He was sure he would have been kicked out if it wasn't for the old man there with him. The class went by smoothly. They didn't seem to believe in classroom introductions, they just went right into work. The teacher explained to them that in order to graduate the academy, they needed to be able to perform 3 jutsu. In addition, they also must do well on the written tests and along with the sparring proportion of the test. They also went into special circumstances, where extremely gifted child would be allowed to graduate the academy early. They stated the last 3 to do such a thing were Uchiha Itachi, Hatake Kakashi, and Namikaze Minato. The names seemed to gain various reactions from everyone in the room. A kid with black eyes and black hair wearing a shirt with a fan on the back had a big smile at the name of Uchiha Itachi. Not much happened when people said Hatake Kakashi. The teachers seemed to roll their eyes but they continued. Namikaze Minato seemed to get varied reactions from everyone in the academy. Many students straightened up at his name, the teachers grimaced, and the Hokage seemed to have his eyes locked on Naruto. It was rather strange. Naruto raised his hand waiting to be called on. The teacher didn't seem to notice the boy and began talking once again, but a cough from the Hokage got everyone's attention. It would seem Ms. Rakumi's ninja senses are lacking due to the fact that she did not notice young Naruto raise his hand. Perhaps I should send you back to the academy, Ms. Rakumi, so you remember how important it is to pay attention to your surroundings. The teacher, now named Ms. Rakumi, paled slightly at that. Sorry Hokage-sama, I was just hoping to get everything out of the way before answering questions. Of course you were? The Hokage cut in, waving his hand dismissively, however the threat seemed to hang in the air as the Hokage's gaze stayed on Ms. Rakumi. He was seemingly daring her to step out of line and purposely ignore Naruto again. The teacher fidgeted under her leader's gaze as she continued. You had a question, Uzumaki? Naruto looked at her with a smile that seemed to make her frown. Yeah, who is Namikaze Minato? Many heads reared on Naruto and looked at him, some wide-eyed. The Hokage saw Ms. Rakumi gain a huge smile and could only glare. Namikaze Minato is the 4th Hokage, also known as Konoha's Yellow Flash for the deeds he did in the Third Shinobi War. It was a shame. About 5 years ago he died on October 10th. The Hokage was up with a hand on Ms. Rakumi's shoulder with a grandfatherly smile that seemed out of place on his face. I believe that is good enough. You do need to get back to students graduating early, don't you? You can go over Namikaze Minato in a history lesson when the students have the new textbooks. She gulped as the Hokage removed his hand from her shoulder. Right, well, the only remaining factor is that the child's guardian has to consent to the child graduating early. In addition to them being able to complete all the tests beforehand. A girl with pink hair asked a question. Sensei, if that is the case, why haven't many ninja graduated early? I have heard that the hench, Kurawami, and Bushin were the easiest jutsu to learn how to use. She frowned and said, everyone please call me Rin, and as for why? Most adults feel it is best for their children to graduate with people their own age, I suppose. It really just doesn't happen often. Truthfully, Hatake Kakashi graduated during war. Uchiha Itachi is seen as a genius of a ninja that has not been seen since the 4th Hokage. Even one of our missing ninja, Orochimaru, one of the 3 legendary Sennin, likely one of the brightest ninja alive to date, did not graduate the academy early. A scowl appeared on the Hokage's face. Maybe it was a bad idea making Rin a teacher at the academy. She was far too outspoken. She clapped her hands together and said, enough with introductions, who here knows how to channel chakra? Many hands went up. Nearly every student in the room had their hand raised besides Naruto and a brown-haired girl in the front row. Rin motioned them to come to the front of the class. Okay, in order to unlock your chakra, you must try and channel your inner self. You must be able to channel both physical energy and spiritual energy. I will channel a slight bit into you. She looked at the young girl with a raised eyebrow. The girl looked up quickly. Musubi, she said with a grin. Rin shrugged. Right, I will channel a bit of chakra into you. It will go straight to your coils. You need to follow that energy and tap into your own chakra supply. Once you do, flare as much chakra as you can, so you can open your coils as much as possible. She gave a quick example by spiking her chakra and a blue wave rushed over her body for just a moment before she took Musubi in hand. Naruto looked at them both. It was odd, his eyes seemed to pick up where the chakra was going. He could see the chakra go down her coils and into what would be a lack of chakra. Suddenly said lake of chakra grew very bright and flooded out and spread about her body. It began leaking out and making rings of firefly around her body for a second. It looked rather impressive, but after a few seconds she was panting and done. Naruto, quickly going to copy what he just witnessed, closed his eyes and began to move down into that lake of chakra he saw before in Musubi's body. Upon reaching it, he let loose. His chakra exploded in a pillar for a second before coming off his body like it was on fire. To him it looked as if he was just a big bright light of energy. To others it looked like white fire was just pouring off of him. He kept channeling for a good minute, The floor below him was beginning to crack and splinter. A good 30 seconds more, of Naruto trying to use as much chakra as he possibly could. He just stood there. Everyone in the class was staring wide-eyed at Naruto. To be honest, he didn't like the attention. He felt like a caged animal that everyone was staring at while he just did what he was told. The Hokage, who had been puffing smoke out of his pipe during Naruto's performance, smiled. "Very good, Naruto. You seem to have a great amount of chakra for your age." Naruto let a grin come onto his face until Rin decided to cut in. "However, you likely have horrible control due to that amount of chakra." This caused Naruto to scowl. The Hokage decided to bid his leave then, lost in thought his chakra. If I could even call it that. It was more spiritual than physical, not even an even mixture. How was he able to do that? Did he even intend to do that? The Hokage frowned. Uzumaki Naruto was most puzzling. "Back to your seats please." Rin took this opportunity to calmly stare at Naruto. "He has more chakra than even me. Maybe even more than a Jounin. Yet he just unlocked his chakra. I don't understand this." It truly gave her a headache thinking about it. She knew it would take her days to run through it all, but the main thing that was bugging her now was, since when is an evil demon's chakra white? Doesn't make sense at all. She continued to teach the class lightly, seeing as it was their first day. Nothing too much, however there was one thing that Naruto was gathering the first day that Rin was really stressing. Knowledge is power. Every good shinobi in the world that she mentioned was strong in their fighting ability, but also incredibly intelligent. Supposedly the fourth Hokage was an expert tactician, known to destroy ranks of ninja due to well use of his personal jutsu. Hatake Kakashi and Uchiha Itachi both became Anbu captains at a young age, the later was the youngest in history. Naruto knew you didn't become one of them on just luck alone. You could be the greatest ninja in the world, and not become an Anbu captain if you are not able to lead a team of men. Hell, you couldn't be able to get to Chunin if you can't lead a team of men, let alone Anbu captain. Naruto came to the conclusion that during his years as a ninja in the academy he would be spending quite a bit of time in the library, because by the end of the lesson taught by Rin he knew every book you read can save your life. Even if the book was basic knowledge of farming. As a ninja you may have to go undercover as a farmer, and if your cover is blown you can sabotage the mission. Every bit of knowledge is useful. He could remember her words very well. As a ninja we are trained to be killers, every part of our bodies is designed to kill. However, don't be mistaken, ninja have flashy jutsu. Whether it be launching a giant fireball at someone, or make a tower out of stone, only to knock it down with a water dragon. We have flashy jutsu, but a ninja's job is to be invisible. Naruto stayed after class to talk to Rin. He approached her at the front of the room. She was behind her desk looking at the evaluation quizzes to check their basic knowledge as and of ninja. Naruto sat in the seat in front of her desk, causing her to look up and scowl. Part of her really wanted to just ask, "What do you want, Iman?" Or boy, but she knew she couldn't unless she wanted to be sitting next to him in class. That was until she suddenly got an idea. Why would a demon have white chakra? That much chakra? Okay, maybe not the second part, but the first idea still stands. The only person with white chakra in the world that I know of at Hatake. Even he doesn't use that anymore. This boy doesn't have the dominant gravity-defying silver hair, so. The question is, what is it? What do you want? She asked with a frown as she looked at him. Naruto looked at her and crossed one arm over his chest as the other fixed his goggles before joining the other arm. "I just wanted to ask if you have any books that I could read tonight since you didn't assign us homework." Rin raised an eyebrow at the boy. "What the hell do you want a book for?" Naruto looked rather stressed and annoyed under her gaze. He was quickly realizing that she was like the people that he would encounter on the streets every day that gave him the ugly looks. "You said that knowledge is power. I want knowledge. I want to be strong." Rin had an odd sense of déjà vu wash over her. She didn't like it one bit. The girl looked up and said, "Well, Ibiki-sensei was reading up on Mist Ninjas. Supposedly they are going to join the war, right? I mean, from what I gather the genins are trained rather extensively in water jutsu. I need to prepare myself, but I don't know anywhere I can find lightning jutsu." Ibiki couldn't help but wonder if he should smile or frown at the girl. Yes, she was studying, but at the age of 8 no one should be studying how to kill other people in his opinion. They should at least wait a few years. "Rin, it is great that you enjoy reading books about the Mist Ninja, but do you really think that book will help you much unless you are fighting students from the academy?" Rin looked down and thought, "But the book said." Ibiki shook his head. "Rin, the book can say anything it wants. The best thing for you to do to prepare yourself is to train yourself hard. Remember, as a ninja, don't assume anything until you can confirm your source. The only thing that is confirmed about Mist Ninja are that they often use water jutsu. The rest of the crap in the book is just gathered knowledge from different ninja from the mist. Don't even think once that all Mist Ninja are the same. It will get you killed out on the field. Rin frowned at that as her sensei moved to the classroom door. Come on, Rin, the school is closing. You can take the book home. Remember, you should always confirm your source before you assume things of people. Rin looked puzzled once more again today. I understand that, sensei, but why would these books carry invalid information? She waved the book in her hand for emphasis. Ibiki smiled at her and gave a slight grin. What does the book say about the Mizukage? She mumbled to herself for a moment and thought, isn't he the one who commanded a civil war against those with bloodlines? Ibiki chuckled lightly. Yes, that is the old Sun Daime Mizukage. Did the book say a word about the new Mizukage? Did it tell you that the new Mizukage is the youngest Kage known to date? Rin looked up, but the book said nothing of a new Mizukage. She looked puzzled for a moment. That was until Ibiki reassured her. No, it did not. Now think about that. These books are out of date, and don't have up-to-date information. What would happen if you were to go out into the field with information that was not up to date? Rin, be honest, I know you are a smart student. What would happen? Rin sighed as she set the book down on the desk beside her. I would likely die. Ibiki gave a sad smile. That's correct. It's fine, sensei, I'll leave the book here. She began to walk past him with a frown on her face. She felt that nearly everything she had been learning preparing for the war had been a waste. The information wasn't up to date. As she proceeded down the hall, she heard Ibiki call out, "Oh, Rin." She turned around to see her teacher standing there with a worn piece of paper in his hands. It looks as if you just wrote on it against the wall or something. You can take this. While the textbooks may be out of date, the jutsu on this paper is not. She ran up and took the piece of paper with a large smile on her face. She gave him a hug until Ibiki quickly pushed her off. Hey, cut that crap out. I am trying to be the interrogation expected Konoha. Can't be seen hugging a little squirt. She gave a pat at Ibiki, who had a small grin on his face. He gave her a pat on her head and said, "Get your ass out of here, I could get in trouble for giving you a genjutsu like that at your age." She got slightly wide-eyed and looked down at the paper only to be shocked. Quick scrawling of the title on the paper clearly stated it, a jutsu that made the Nidaime Hokage famous. Kokwangai no Jutsu, the bringer of darkness. She looked up to say thanks to her sensei only to see a paper floating down along with leaves. She snatched the paper out of the air only to read it and bite her lip. This is my goodbye, leaving for interrogation tomorrow. You will have a new sensei, become a strong ninja, and always confirm your source. Ibiki, she wanted to cry that day. Right when she began to understand her teacher, and he taught her things about ninja, and that you can't rely on textbooks. He leaves. She later found out that the next time she would see him would be to administer her Chunin exam. She didn't know how proud he was of her for her execution of Kokwangai no Jutsu in the finals, and every time beating her enemies to unconsciousness through her superior use of genjutsu. She gained the nickname of Konoha's Princess of Darkness due to the fact she was the only one to be able to execute the genjutsu without hand seals, and was one of 3 people that could perform the genjutsu. Herself, Konoha's Ice Queen Yuhi Kurenai, and the Professor, the 3rd Hokage. She would later go on to be an accomplished medic ninja. Many people would say that medic ninjas can't fight, Tsunade being the exception. The conversation was always ended with a single name. Rikumi Rin. X. She came back to herself with Naruto wave one hand in front of her face and another checking her pulse. It was rather funny, until she shook her head. Sorry, how long was I daydreaming? Rin asked with a small smile on her face until she realized it was Naruto in front of her. Naruto had his lips pursed in an amused smirk, and asked, "Daydreaming, He said with a slight laugh. Rin snapped up to meet his eyes with glare. Shut it. Mention it to anyone, I will deny it and no one will believe you. She finished with a grin. Naruto's amused look went quickly to a sad frown. She seemed to strike a chord there. Rin was curious at the sudden change in emotion until she thought about underneath of her statement, and what he would think. She paled slight. No one would believe the QB brat. She sighed. I'm sorry, I don't like getting caught daydreaming or something. What did you want, Naruto? I forgot. Naruto tilted his head and looked at her. I wanted just a book that I could read. You said knowledge is power, right? She looked at him straight in the eyes and the voice of her true sensei popped into her head. Never assume things until you are able to confirm your source. She sighed and took out a piece of paper and began to write on it. Naruto came around the desk and began to watch over her shoulder as she jotted down notes. By the time she was finished, she gave Naruto a small piece of paper that gave Naruto the basics of Kurawami, Henge, and Mizubushin. Naruto looked up at her rather surprised. Sensei, why did you give me notes on the Mizubushin? She waved her hand dismissively. You have far too much chakra to be able to use a regular bushin. She reached over to the side of the desk to grab her coat as she heard Naruto ask, can you show me? She missed seeing him adjust his goggles. She looked at him curiously for a moment before shrugging, sure. She grabbed the bottled water of her desk and walked to the center of the room. She turned around and looked at him. Alright, the first is a henge, a simple genjutsu using chakra to attempt to alter a person's image. There are other types of henge, but this is the most basic academy-taught henge. I would explain chakra flow, but it is all on the paper I gave you. She then proceeded to transform herself into Naruto. Naruto carefully watched as what he assumed was chakra made a thin coat over the body and altered her appearance to look like him. He grinned. Who is this beautiful charming young man? As he motioned to his professor in an illusion. Rin chuckled a bit, more like short boy. So the kid has jokes. I guess he is not as bad as I thought. Kurawami relies a lot more on willpower than anything. You have to quickly gather chakra and you need to want, and when I say want I mean you need to want. To replace yourself with whatever object it is. You can use it on many things, but it is most commonly used on a rock or a log. The bigger the object, the less control is needed to swap with it. There are however a couple exceptions. The universal rule I have found and read with Kurawami is that you can't replace yourself with anything you can't physically lift. You also can't replace yourself with things that are not solid, such as water. Naruto thought it over for a second before accepting that. It made sense, so he quietly watched as she replaced herself with a table. Chakra gathered in her inner coils. He saw a rather bright line happen in a split second. A string shot out and attached to the log before she suddenly replaced herself with it. Naruto looked questioningly at the desk. So chakra is physical and spiritual, right? He looked at her with a confused gaze. She merely nodded. Yes, why do you ask? Naruto shrugged. Just curious, that's all. Maybe I am seeing spiritual energy instead of chakra. He thought to himself. Alright, last one, watch my hands. Snake, bird, tiger, in that order. She did the seals in that order and her body began to glow when she got to bird. Upon reaching tiger, her chakra split off her body and two clones began to rise out of the water she poured onto the floor. Naruto stared long and hard at the clones. They seemed to have a chakra network, but it was next to nothing compared to her own. Rin sighed and said, Alright Naruto, I'm tired. Today was much longer than planned. I'm going to go home, I'll see you tomorrow. Naruto grinned, thanks Rin-sensei. Rin only nodded as she watched her student walk out the door. She quickly said before he left, Naruto, I'm always here for you to talk to, alright? Naruto frowned, what about if something happens when you go out on a mission, sensei? Rin shrugged. Don't worry about that, I'm not going anywhere. A bright smile appeared on his face, and it was infectious. Naruto, would you like to join me for dinner at my house tonight? Naruto seemed to think it over and then eventually nodded. Yeah, that sounds fun. Rin gave a smile and quickly said, Alright, wait here just a second, let me get my things. Naruto nodded and waited at the door. Alright. Rin was quickly by his side, books in hand as well as a bunch of papers. He assumed the tests to grade. She nudged him out of the classroom and asked, So what do you want for dinner? Naruto shrugged. I don't know, I can count the different things I have eaten on my right hand. Rin looked with a small laugh. Oh really? I highly doubt the orphanage would do that to you, Uzumaki-san. She fortunately or unfortunately caught him mumble, you'd be surprised. Bread, water, a rabbit I caught when I was 3, and berries one time. But there are no more on the bush I checked yesterday. Rin felt the need to instantly go into doctor mode right there and examine him. However, she didn't think he wanted a full medical exam in the middle of the hallway on his first day at school. Although the thought that he wasn't living on any protein severely bothered her. Alright, well, grab my arm, Naruto. Naruto looked at her arm, then her with a raised eyebrow. Why? He asked. Rin rolled her eyes. I am taking us to my house. Naruto's mouth formed an O shape, but he was still curious on how this was going to happen. It was nearly instantaneous. Chakra swirled around them and then reappeared swirling in front of her house. In truth, the chakra and spiritual energy shattered the bodies during the teleportation into a bunch of spirit particles from what he gathered. Then the physical energy would reform the particles by swirling around the spirit energy at the place's destination. They came to in the middle of a random room of the house. How did you do that? Naruto asked, confused. Rin looked at him, tilting her head. The Shushin no Jutsu? You normally don't learn that till you are a Chunin. Naruto shook his head. Not that I mean how are you able to crumble and reform my spirit particles, I mean I can understand a jutsu allowing you to do that for your own body, but to affect other people? How did you do it? Rin was looking at Naruto rather surprised. You can see spiritual energy? Naruto looked away from her and adjusted his goggles. You know what, my eye hurts. Do you know where the bathroom is? I am going to go look at them. Rin looked at him with a frown and pushed him into a chair. Nonsense, I'm a certified doctor, I'll take a look at you right here. Naruto shook his head. No really, it's fine, I think they are just irritated, maybe something got in my eye. She pursed her lips, she couldn't believe how many memories the young boy was bringing up for her. With a sad smile she said, Naruto. You're wearing goggles. Now please let me look at your eyes. Naruto wanted to hit himself, or bang his head against a table. However, Naruto just relaxed and took his goggles off and kept his eyes closed. She couldn't help it, he reminded her too much of Obito whenever she would give his eyes a quick once-over each morning. Naruto, can you open your eyes for me? Naruto frowned and opened his eyes only to be face to face with Rin giving him a warm smile with her head tilted. He never took the time to really look at her, he had always been accustomed to people ignoring him. He just learned to ignore people. She had brown shoulder-length hair. She had purple square markings aimed diagonally on her cheeks. She wore a black vest that would have showed off her arms. She had purple squares on the sides of her shoulders. On her right arm was medical tape wrapped around and covered by a long black fingerless glove. The rest of the outfit was a basic jounin outfit in black, however the pants were quite a bit tighter than standard, with more pockets. He did notice the sudden change in her eyes though. Naruto? When did this happen? She had a mini light at the ready flashing it at his eyes. Naruto shrugged, just yesterday. I was hungry, and the orphanage left me outside for the day, and I didn't get breakfast that day. So I was hungry, I broke out and went into the forest to where I had berries one time. Rin paled instantly. Naruto, what colors were the berries? Naruto blinked, then blinked again. Purple. Why? Rin shook her head and took out a syringe, and before Naruto could react, she was already drawing blood from his arm. Hold still, she said. Naruto could only roll his eyes. Oh yeah, hold still after you stab me in the arm with a needle. He thought to himself with a groan. Rin put the needle away and was about to patch up Naruto's arm only to watch in surprise as the wound closed before her eyes. Rin sighed as she examined Naruto. Wait here, I'm going to go get something. Naruto had the thought of making a dash for the door as soon as she turned her back. He got brought to a lady's house who must enjoy torturing children. She was stabbing him with needles and everything. Rin came back quickly with a single white sheet of paper and handed it to Naruto. Channel chakra into that, don't disappoint me, she said as she gazed at Naruto. Naruto looked at her with a raised eyebrow. What the hell is this for? He was slapped on the back of the head by Rin lightly. Watch your language. Naruto gave her a small glare and said, you do it first. She gave him a glance and reached into her back pocket. Alright. I'm a water type. She channeled chakra into the piece of paper, at which point it became wet. See? She asked. If you are a water type, the card becomes wet. Earth, the card turns to dust. Lightning, the card crumples up. Wind, the card will split. And fire, the card will burn or get scorched. Naruto looked at the card before him and sighed. He set it flat on the table before touching the center and channeling chakra into it. The effect came instantly. The card split into 4 sections. One burned, one crumpled, one turned to dust, and another one turned damp. That one was currently being used to put out the scorching card. When the card was put out, she was looking at Naruto wide-eyed. Naruto looked at her and backed up a bit. Her stare made him a bit uncomfortable, much like the stares in the classroom. She stopped the stare and smiled at Naruto. She patted his knee and said, you are destined for great things, Naruto, I can tell. Naruto could only stare at the hand on his knee and smile. That was likely the nicest thing anyone had ever said to him. Rin stood up and straightened her clothes before saying, make yourself at home. Actually practice those jutsu in the back if you want to. I'm going to start preparing dinner. Naruto decided to pick the later of the options. Little did Rin know that within the hour she took inside to make dinner, the child genius outside would have all legal needs to test out of the academy done. The best thing about it? He didn't even think it was a feat. It took him not that long to learn how to perform the jutsu that Rin gave him, a half hour really. All he had to do was flow his spiritual and physical energy in the way the jutsu was intended, and the jutsus worked. Naruto found as he continued to perform jutsus that being able to see spiritual energy was a gift for a ninja. This is because from what he gathered, spiritual energy often served as the guide of all physical energy, the brains of the operation. Like with the Karawami, it seemed that the physical energy just acted as if, wherever you go, I'll follow. That seemed what it was like for the Shushin no Jutsu to work. Honestly, the more he thought of it, the more the two techniques seemed to blend slightly. Aside from the shattering into thousands of spirit particles, a lot of it was the same. Your spirit and will told you where you were and where you wanted to end up. Your physical energy made you swap with a log or reform in the designated spot. He would have attempted to test out the Shushin, if he wasn't scared of experimenting with it and completely shattering into particles, and not being able to reform. He decided that instead of possibly erasing himself from existence, he was just going to sit down and relax. Naruto, dinner is ready. Came the cry of Rin through the window that overlooked the backyard. So much for relaxing. He thought, amused. He had been sitting for only a couple minutes before she called him. When Naruto got inside, he was brought to the image of Rin in shorts and a long t-shirt standing at the counter making last-minute cuts to the food. He really wanted to laugh at the scene of a ninja, Someone that is supposed to be a cold-blooded killer bouncing around like a bubbly child as she finished preparing the food, all the while whistling a tune. He sat down at the table where he saw the plates were. He noticed 4 sets were placed down and Naruto looked at her questioningly. "Why did you set the table for 4 people?" Rin looked up and came over with a bowl of food. "Oh, every night a couple of friends come over for dinner when they get off of work." Naruto just nodded. He didn't need any more information than that. He was just curious. The clock struck 6 and you could feel the wind blow briefly through the apartment. "Right on time as usual, Itachi. Glad you could join us." Naruto's eyes widened briefly. He knew he had his back turned to the person, but it was rather surprising. It was not every day that you learn about someone in class who is supposedly a genius and then you eat dinner with him. "Thank you, Rakumi." As Naruto watched a spoon fly through the air and go right over Itachi's head, after he ducked. Itachi shook his head. "Sorry, I mean thank you, Rin." Naruto looked at the large grin Rin gained when Itachi called her by her first name as Itachi sat down across from him at the table. "Good, I'm glad you remembered, Itachi. I don't need robots in my household." He rolled his blood-red eyes at that, but it was invisible to Naruto behind his white mask. He unfastened his mask and put it to the side of his head. He then sat in silence staring at Naruto. They both had a staring contest that seemed to make the temperature drop in the room as Rin carried the bowls of food to the table. As she was carrying over the last bowl of food to the table before she sat down, Itachi spoke. "Those are some interesting eyes you have, Uzumaki Naruto." Naruto remained impassive. He was used to being stared at. Rin stared at him nearly the entire day. "The same goes for you, Itachi-san." There was silence at the table for quite a while before Itachi leaned back and smirked in amusement. "Touché." Naruto took the time to examine Itachi. He had shoulder-length black hair, quite intimidating red eyes. He was wearing a standard-issue Anbu uniform, but he assumed that was because he had just got off work. Naruto looked at him. "You don't seem that old. How old are you?" Itachi quickly replied, 12. Naruto looked taken aback. Maybe the robot idea Rin put out there wasn't too far off. 12 years old and in Anbu? Naruto looked to Rin. "Rin, do you think we can eat?" Rin frowned. She didn't want to keep the kid waiting as this was likely going to be the best meal he had ever had in his life. However, she did want to wait for Kakashi. Rin finally shrugged. Kakashi was normally so late that her and Itachi were left talking for a good 45 minutes before he even arrived. Then they would have to microwave the food. However, for once, Kakashi was close enough to being on time. A pop announced his presence in the house as he walked over to the table. He was a tall man. He had silver hair that stuck up, seemingly defying gravity. He too, like Itachi, was wearing standard-issue Anbu uniform. The only thing off was he didn't wear a mask. He had his Konoha headband tilted so it covered one eye, and his face mask covered a little more than the bottom half of his face, only revealing an eye. He walked over to his seat and while he was still behind Naruto he asked, "Who's the kid?" He sat down beside Naruto and quickly but unfortunately said, "Oh, never mind then." This caused Naruto to scowl, but Rin quickly coughed into her hand. "Kakashi, since you arrived late tonight, you'll be saying grace." Kakashi groaned. "Why do I always have to say grace?" Rin looked at him with a huge grin. "Because you always arrive late." Kakashi rolled his eyes at his former teammate. "Dear Heavenly Spirit," Kakashi drawled, "thank you for providing us with the amazing work of literature such as each eye." Kakashi got cut off as a roll smashed into his face. Rin turned to Itachi who, while normally impassive, his eyes could barely contain the amusement. "Itachi, please say grace. An appropriate one for in the presence of a young boy." Itachi swiftly nodded and began. "Dear Heavenly Spirit, thank you for providing us with our friends and family. For providing the sage the tools to gift us with ninjutsu and for the tools that you have blessed my family with." There was a pause after Itachi spoke before Rin said everyone could grab food. Since this was Naruto's first time actually having a real meal, modesty was not one of the qualities he was showing. His plate was quickly filled with greens, chicken, rice and a couple rolls. Naruto after taking a good amount of food and grinned, "So, Rin, do you just constantly surround yourself with genius?" Naruto asked with a grin. Everyone stopped eating at the table and looked at her. Good question. The three thought. She rubbed the back of her head with a laugh. "I don't know, I mean, me and Kakashi were on the same Jonin team together. Our sensei was the fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Kakashi moved up in the ranks after an incident on a mission, while I moved into more from a field medical to a medic at hospital. Later on I became Itachi and Kakashi's personal doctor and well, we became fairly good friends." Naruto accepted that answer. Kakashi looked at it and bluntly said, "You have weird eyes." Naruto looked at Kakashi in annoyance. His eyes had been commented on enough times that day. He saw the spirit energy flowing constantly to the eye that was hidden under the headband and snapped, "Yeah, well, so do you." Naruto finished his statement, taking a large bit of chicken and began to shovel rice into his mouth. The adults, or the official ninja, shared a look between themselves at the table as they finished their meal in silence. Naruto sat outside on the back porch. Rin was saying goodbye to Itachi and Kakashi. They were getting ready for their night shifts as Anbu. The dinner was probably going to be the most memorable moment in his life. He had never tasted anything like it before, and he had never had the opportunity to eat till he was full. The sad part is he knew he would never be able to eat like this again. It took a few minutes, but soon enough Rin was out back with Naruto. They sat in silence for a while. Rin broke it with asking, "So you lived at the orphanage all your life?" Naruto shrugged. "Wasn't that already in the file that you got when I was put into your class?" Rin sighed. It seemed he was rather cold when it came to certain subjects. "I was just wondering, has anyone ever attempted to adopt you?" Naruto laughed at that. It could be a joke really. "Before I could get people to adopt me, I would need people to know that I existed." Rin pursed her lips. "Oh, they know you exist all right. I was just wondering because I wanted to know if you will let me become your legal guardian." Naruto sat still, looked down at the steps below him. He was being offered a family. How could he say no? "Of course you can become my guardian, Rakumi-san," he said, still looking down, holding back tears. Rin smiled down at the boy and sat behind him and put her hands around him, wrapping him into a hug. "I will go see the Hokage and the orphanage tomorrow after school. The guest bedroom is now yours, regardless of them accepting me as your guardian or not. You are always welcome here," she said quietly as she held the young boy. "Everyone deserves a bit of a childhood." Rin couldn't help but smile as she stood behind the counter cleaning the dishes. She was watching her adopted son sitting on the comfy couch, feet kicked up onto the coffee table as he read a book. She at first wasn't a huge fan of Uzumaki Naruto, her godson. However, like many people in the village, she didn't think they were a fan of Uzumaki Naruto. The only difference about her is that she changed. Rin had adopted Naruto not long after his 5th birthday when she met him after school in the Konoha Ninja Academy. As a child, Rin was always a firm believer in knowledge was power. It even became accustomed for her to ignore those that did not think so because she would write them off as failures. That view on the ninja world and life got imprinted on her son Naruto even in the short amount of time she had to care for him. Upon adopting Naruto, she took it upon herself to school him, along with the help of her 2 closest friends in Konoha. Hatake Kakashi had been her friend since her childhood days of a Jonin under the 4th Hokage during the Second Great Shinobi War. Uchiha Itachi being the other, likely the greatest genius that Konoha has ever had the pleasure of producing. Rin took it upon herself to prepare her son for the ninja world, and with his gifts the task was rather simple. She first tested his mind to see if he had any inner genius waiting to come out. She was happy with the results. The results, however, could have been native to him or been implanted in him through the knowledge of 2 child genius in their own right always being around him. Upon adoption, the boy expressed a willingness to learn that was unrivaled by all except one of the former Sannin of the Leaf Village. The only difference was that the boy had no boundaries he could not cross while learning his skills. Everything seemed to click for her. He absorbed information like a sponge. She remembered to the day she first met him. He had essentially completed the academy curriculum in a day. Upon telling Uchiha Itachi that, the boy seemed to flinch. Oh, she knew she struck a chord and continued to bring it up whenever she could. However, it was a rather big joke teaching Naruto in the academy, when legally all she had to do was sign a paper and he could leave the academy and join a Jonin team. Naruto over the short span of the year was able to learn techniques that most didn't learn until they joined a Jonin team. The Grand Fireball Jutsu was taught to him by Uchiha Itachi in extensive detail. It took him moments to understand what needed to be done. Then only weeks to be able to execute it properly. A scowl formed on her face though as she was reminded of the fact Itachi owed her new curtains. Kakashi taught him a fair array of water jutsu. That was what she normally found the boy working on as well. However, she had seen some shocking things from the boy that she didn't expect. She knew due to the help of her friend Kakashi and the confirmation of her other friend Itachi that the young boy had the dujutsu, the Rinnegan. She spent days, hell even months trying to figure out the limits of the dujutsu. Soon she got tired of it and gave up, convinced there were no limits. She had also seen him doing things that surprised her, like compressing multiple rocks into a small ball without hand seals. However, when he attempted to tell her about it, she couldn't understand a word he was saying. He said the ability used purely spiritual energy on a physical of partially physical object of force. She didn't understand how it was possible. She asked him if the technique was even finished. He told her no and that it would likely take years. She said the idea of the attack is to repel physical forces or propel them. He just couldn't find a way to do it. She realized that she couldn't realize what she had actually specifically taught him. She stopped washing dishes and set the soapy cup in her hand down and walked over to Naruto. "Naruto, what have I taught you?" she asked as she stood before him, hands on his hips. Yep. There were some odd things that he had to deal with for having a young mother that looked like she could pass for his sister in a couple years minus the hair color. Naruto didn't look up from the book and shrugged, first year in the majority of second year curriculum. Rin huffed, damn it Naruto, you know I don't mean in class. I mean like Itachi or Kakashi. What have I taught you? Naruto set his book into his lap and looked her in the eye fairly amused. You are really getting worked up over this? Why is it such a big deal? Rin sent him a glare when he said that. It is a big deal because I'm your mother, I'm supposed to be teaching you. Naruto rolled his eyes, and with a groan said, Mom, you have taught me differently than Kakashi and Itachi because I am your son. You have taught me about the shinobi world, proper diet, chakra control. Rin was seemingly mulling that over in her head. She locked eyes with Naruto once more. You lying to me? Naruto pursed his lips. He knew she hated it when he did this, but the opportunity was too good to pass up. Everybody lies. He finished with a grin as he saw her tan face go red. Mom, I'm going out. He quickly said as he bolted for the door. Remember to pick up all these damn books when you get back. As she motioned to the ground littered with books on ninja history, to ninjutsu, to martial arts and swordsmanship. Naruto paused at the door. Oh. I can't. You see, this really mean teacher today gave me a large essay I needed to write. I need to go to the library to get some books on it. Rin rolled her eyes. I saw you finish the thing with the water clone when you got home. What? Me? No. Damn clones, I will have to talk to them about doing my homework. Geez, now I need to correct my homework to make sure it didn't do any mistakes. He shook his head in mock exasperation. His mom could only smile. Just get out of here, I love you, she said as she motioned him to leave. Luckily, due to ninja senses, she was able to pick up the faint whisper of, I know. Before the door closed, Naruto frowned as he walked down the streets of Konoha. The people passing by gave him no attention. At first he hated it. It was like no one in the world knew he existed. However, upon living with Rin and being so close to Itachi and Kakashi all the time, it started to not bug him anymore. If they wanted to ignore him, he could ignore them just as well. Naruto sighed as he made his way down the street to the library. He enjoyed going there. It was always nice to find out new information. It sucked when you were looking for specific information and you couldn't find it. He had been searching for weeks, even months, on anything about the Rinnegan and its abilities. The only thing he was able to find was its name in a list of the world's incredible doujutsu. It went into the Sharingan and Byakugan in a large extent. The thought of studying brought his mind to wander onto the academy. It was really starting to get on his nerves. He often got the question from Kakashi or Rin, such as, are you excited for the academy today, Naruto? Going over kunai throwing. You'll be taught by none other than Itachi today. Naruto scowled and looked at them. Oh yeah, that's awesome. I can go ahead and do something. Itachi kicked my ass for 2 months trying to learn correctly. The only reason I would even bother going in the amusement in seeing Itachi get annoyed with a bunch of academy students, the majority who still have trouble with their shoelaces. Naruto was able to luckily talk Rin into signing the paper allowing him to skip through all grades. However, upon her doing this, she asked him to stay the last year in the academy, so at least he could get to know the students whose team he would be on. He didn't like the idea that much at all. In his mind, Naruto found it unnecessary. He was going to graduate it, do a few missions with his team, carry them up to the Chunin exams, become a Chunin and make his ideal team. Myself. He mused as an afterthought. It wasn't that Naruto didn't like other ninja, in fact he loved ninja. The problem was that all the ninja when not on duty acted like people. Many people drive him crazy. Naruto walked up to the door of the library and read the sign on it, closed on Sundays, and suddenly frowned. He wanted to slap himself. I should have knew that crap before he left. He told himself silently. He decided while he was out he should at least get some food. He walked up the street about a quarter mile and sat down in a ramen stand. It wasn't his favorite food, but he enjoyed it. His favorite food was pretty much anything his mother could make. The stand was rather crowded with a bunch of academy students. They all seemed to be having a good time, all 7 of them. Naruto just shrugged them off. 3 miso ramen and 2 pork please. A girl with an overly large light orange and teal sweatshirt looked at Naruto. She removed a few locks of her brown hair before asking, how can you eat that much? You look like a shrimp to me. Naruto would have said something about her clothing style, however decided to just be a smartass and get on with his meal. Really? I had no clue I looked like a finger-long pink sea creature, that are rather tasty if they come from the land of water. He ignored her scowl as she went back to her food, as did Naruto. However, it didn't take long for Naruto to start getting annoyed. The girl he was just talking to him started to whisper about his sense of style. As if she has the right to talk. He thought sourly. Seriously, I mean, why would a little kid, he can't be more than 7 years old. Why would he dress in a large cloak, pants that mimic those that Jounin or Anbu wear, and a fishnet undershirt. The girl crossed her arms and shook her head. A few at the table looked amused, while the majority of the girls went on to look him over once. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "Did you know checking out 6-year-old boys is the early makings of a pedophile?" The boys at the table snickered at the girls who blushed. One girl, a blue-haired one, stomped down on the boy who was in front of her. It must not have been pleasant because you could clearly see him jump and then both hands reach under the table to caress his foot. "Teru, just ignore him, alright?" was the words who came from the blonde sitting across from the brown-haired girl. Naruto pursed his lips in amusement. "She gives good advice," he added in a whisper, but loud enough for all them to hear. This caused the blonde to smirk. Of course, it was rather funny being able to see a 6-year-old get her friend all riled up over the dumbest things, like a 6-year-old's fashion sense. Teru snapped and got up and stood next to Naruto with a glare across her face. Naruto was inwardly smirking as he thought of more things to say. "Naruto is not here right now. Please leave your name and number after the beep." As he went for another mouthful of ramen, completely ignoring Teru. Teru stood there looking at Naruto. The ramen shop was silent. Naruto was glad that the owner and his daughter were in the back of the shop and not seeing this. Teru growled, "You just going to ignore me this entire time?" Naruto quickly replied, "I don't associate with idiots." Teru slapped his bowl of ramen and got it all over his cloak and chest. Naruto looked at her and glared. "What year are you all in at the Ninja Academy?" The boy who had been rubbing his foot gasped out, "Final year." Naruto looked at Teru, who had been glaring at him. "I'll be seeing you all tomorrow." All heads whirled on him, even those that didn't care about one of Teru's many confrontations. "What do you mean you'll be seeing us tomorrow?" the blonde-haired girl nearly shouted. Naruto looked at her. "Well, you all will. I don't know about your blue-haired friend, however." The blue-haired girl beside the blonde had not said anything the entire time. She just sat there eating her ramen. She had a black cloth over her eyes, and really that could only mean two things. One, she was blind. Two, she was a hyuga with a sense of style. Either way, it didn't affect him, so he had no reason to care. Naruto got up to leave. "We are all going to become awesome friends," he said in mock excitement. Before he exited the shop, he turned around to face Teru. She was quite a bit taller than him, but that didn't matter. "Teru, right?" She only glared down at him. "I almost forgot to return the favor of ruining my clothes." With quick hands he snatched up, grabbing her sweatshirt and pulling down. He could hear cloth and fishnet rip as he pulled down and ripped her clothes. Within seconds and a few screams later, she was standing in front of her friends in only short shorts that were covered by her overly large sweatshirt. She had her arms across her chest, to hide her surprisingly curvy figure for being 12 years old. She was yelling at Naruto, "What, are you crazy? I only got your clothes wet, I didn't tear them off your body. Geez, I'm sorry, but do you know I have to walk all the way across town now? I can't go like this." Try as he might, as much as he wanted to say that his actions were justified, he couldn't. Wet clothes did not equal being half naked. Naruto sighed, "Alright, we are both wrong." The panic in Teru's eyes didn't really matter to her as she hastily asked her friends if they had any spare clothes or cloths, but to no avail. "Damn right you're wrong," she said as she tried to look on the ground with on hand for cloth that she could use to cover herself. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Hold on, I said we were both wrong. We aren't even equally wrong. You're at least 3 or 4 times wronger than me." This caused her to scowl. Naruto sighed, "I like about a couple minutes away. If we walk quickly, we can go there from behind the shops on Market Street. If you want, I can offer you some new clothes." Teru looked up angrily. "So you rip up my shirt only to offer me a new one?" That sweatshirt was hideous. "That being said, I honestly don't care. I am being nice, you started it. You can take it or leave. I am certainly going to go home happy if I find that likely the biggest bitch in the academy had to walk home half naked today." Teru sat there silent, covering herself with the remains of her sweatshirt before cursing, "God damn it. Fine, let's go." She quickly waved goodbye to her friends before picking up a piece of cloth to cover her chest as much as possible before getting dragged out by Naruto and into the alley behind the shops. The boy with the hurt foot at the table began to snicker. I wonder if that could be turned into a pickup line. Rip off a girl's clothes, then invite her back to your place offering her a new shirt. This in turn received him a harsh footstepping by the white-haired girl across from him. Naruto got to the front door, an angry Teru standing next to him. He quickly walked in the house only to find his mother kissing Uchiha Itachi while laying on top of his chest. "Anne, I just wanted to add this in right now. If I was reading something like this, I would want to probably hit back. However, bear with me, this is actually vital to the story, as you will see this chapter, or next." "Oh, what the fuck, Mom?" Naruto looked at the two of them who sprung up off the couch. Naruto could now see that his mom was only in a bra, while Itachi was missing a shirt. "For the love of God, put some damn clothes on." I did not need to see that. Rin frowned momentarily. Yes Naruto, you did. Naruto, what the hell, why can't you knock? Naruto stalked to his room. I shouldn't have to knock to enter my own house, mom. If you could have sex in the bedroom like a normal person, and not in the living room when 4 different people have keys to this house. Hatake Kakashi appeared moments later. Hey Naruto, it is my day off, I was just wondering. He suddenly stopped his train of thought as he looked at Rin and Itachi, who seemed to be caught in the act. No thanks Kakashi, I was just leaving, said Naruto as he came out with a shirt from his mother's room. Teru, get in here. Kakashi looked at Naruto with a raised eyebrow. Is that for the naked girl on the porch? This earned a cry of what? From Rin that caused Naruto to roll his eyes. A blushing brown-haired girl came in seconds later, and Naruto quickly handed her a shirt. Rin went into mother mode regardless of her indecency. Naruto, what is the meaning of this? I let you leave the house, and no more than an hour later you bring back a naked girl. This only served to make Teru blush even more. Rin looked over Naruto and then glared. Is that my shirt you're giving her? Naruto glared back. You don't seem to be using shirts anyway, mom. Rin flinched at that and seemed to shrink away, seemingly forgetting to reprimand Naruto for bringing a girl home like that. Teru quickly moved behind the counter and knelt down, only to come up seconds later with a rather tight shirt on. Naruto looked at Kakashi. What were you going to ask me? Kakashi couldn't keep himself from frowning at Rin. Itachi stood in the corner of the room, shirt now back on. Kakashi, while not looking at Naruto, said, I was going to teach you the seals and chakra manipulation for a jutsu from each element of ninjutsu. Naruto nodded. Alright, let's go. Anything that gets me away from here, Naruto said with a frown at his mother. Kakashi nodded. Naruto, meet me at training ground 14, I will catch up. Naruto only shrugged, not wanting to be around there much longer anyways. Teru followed quickly behind him after his leave. Kakashi sighed as he looked at his 2 friends. Are you too serious right now? What were you thinking? You know how Naruto feels about this crap. It is bad enough you basically made him walk in on his mother figure naked. Itachi walked up and said, it was necessary. It was orders from the Hokage that Naruto needed to be able to recognize some relationship between us. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. Wait. Has something changed? Rin looked like her puppy died as she said, in addition to the council's plan for the Uchiha clan, they requested that he brings a healer along with him. The Hokage said that I would be perfect for the job. Kakashi's eyes widened. What? What about Naruto? He knows you need to take care of him. Rin could only shake her head. That's the thing. He says that it will be good for Naruto to grow up alone. It will make it easier for Naruto to make friends with people his own age. Kakashi looked at her. You don't agree with him, do you? Rin looked at Kakashi like he grew another head. Heavens no. But who am I to argue with the Hokage? Itachi's mission is to join the criminal organization forming called the Akatsuki. My mission is to act as Itachi's personal medic, while I go and defect to Kirigakure. Kakashi frowned. Why Kirigakure? Rin sighed. We can't gain any information from them. We found out when I was in the academy that there was a new female Mizukage. We have been unable to gather any information since then. The only thing that we have been able to gather is that she deals with all threats to her village personally. Itachi decided to come into the conversation. On the record? The plan is for Rudanbu specializing in Dodenjutsu to go out on an assassination attempt on the Mizukage under the guise of Iwa Ninja. Kakashi frowned. What about off the record? Itachi for once allowed a frown to grace his features. In truth, they are just being used as pawns. Rin comes in as a Konoha missing nin shortly after the fight. If all goes well, we hope the Mizukage is unable to avoid an injury during the fight, at which point Rin comes in and shows her medical skills. Kakashi didn't like the plan at all. What if Rude isn't able to land a hit on the Mizukage and Rin shows up? Silence reigned the room. No one dared to speak, and it lasted for a good 5 minutes. When does this happen? Kakashi asked with a frown. Tonight. Kakashi sighed. Is there any way to contact both of you? Rin nodded. I have set up a bank account under the name of Kaitara Kutaragi. Itachi will be unable to be contacted. For me, just write an invisible ink on the back of checks and I will read them using a black light when I get them. Kakashi tried to smile but couldn't. All of his friends would be leaving him. Rin gave Kakashi a hug and a kiss on the cheek. I love you, she said with a small smile. Kakashi could only nod. Are you leaving for the Uchiha district now? Itachi gave a nod. Yes, I actually want to convince my mother and brother to leave for the day. Kakashi could understand that. He had no clue what Itachi must be feeling right now, tasked to eradicate his family. Will you be saying goodbye to Naruto? Asked Kakashi. Rin smiled. Yeah. But I won't actually say goodbye, just that I love him. Can you please tell him how to contact me? Kakashi nodded. He decided to lighten the mood as much as he could before he could never see his friends again, unless in combat. I noticed the video you left for him. Did you ever figure out if he could see the spiritual energy through the television? No, he can't, but I went into heavy detail on the flow of chakra and spiritual energy for everything I had that would be useful to teach him. Kakashi looked at Itachi and asked, "Did you leave him anything?" Itachi motioned to his blade in the place where Naruto often sat down to read. "That along with a bit of me is on the tape she made for Naruto. I wanted to give him jutsu that would balance out all his strengths and weaknesses. I figured that where that Sharingan failed, being able to learn everything but not being able to use all of it, the Rinnegan succeeded in being able to learn everything, and use it." Rin muttered, "and then some." With a frown on her face thinking about her son's talents. Itachi looked at the clock and spoke, "We should get going." Rin could only nod sadly, "Yeah." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a note and set it on top of the videotape. Rin and Itachi both shushined out of there, most likely to the Uchiha complex. Before he went on to go catch up with Naruto, he had to add one thing to the note Rin left for him. Kakashi unfolded the note and grabbed a pen off the table. He uncovered a Sharingan eye and scanned it. He couldn't help but feel sad over with emotional friend. The paper had teardrops all over it. Kakashi got to the bottom of the paper and wrote, "P.S. Ask the Hokage about Uzumaki Kushina." He had never told his friends he knew who Naruto's parents were. In truth, he thought it was better that way. Under her note, there was a completely signed document allowing Naruto to advance and graduate the academy. Signed Rakumi Rin. Tara looked at the boy she was walking next to curiously. Albeit, she didn't like him that much for ripping her clothes, and getting a good eyeful before offering his help. However, the fact of the matter was, she started it and he could have very well left her there at the ramen stand and forced her to run home naked. She knew the boy was no more than 6 or 7 years old. His eyes were rather interesting to say the least. She wondered if they were a dojutsu of some kinda. However, upon scanning her basic knowledge of dojutsu, she was sure that it at least was not from here. They continued making their way to the training ground until Naruto stopped. "Why are you following me?" Tara raised an eyebrow. While it was true she was following him, she thought he wanted her to. "What do you mean?" Naruto looked at her. "I'm sorry, am I speaking another language to you?" Naruto was glad that they weren't in the middle of a crowded street. This would otherwise surely cause problems. Tara glared. "No, I can understand you perfectly fine. I just thought that you didn't mind me tagging along." Naruto gave her a confused glance. "I publicly strip you down to your birthday suit, and you suddenly want to tag along with me like we are best friends." "I don't know, I mean, I've thought a lot about it. I know I started it. My friends tell me all the time I have a bad temper and tend to start fights for no reason. While I don't agree with the fact that you stripped me." She gave him a glare at that. "I can understand why something like that would happen." She finished with a sigh. Naruto gave her a long hard look before speaking as he continued to walk to the training grounds. "Huh. You have a brain." Tara stopped dead her tracks for a moment before running back to catch up to Naruto. "You know that you're a jerk, right?" Naruto only shrugged. He honestly didn't care if her was rude or not. As they walked along in silence, Teru spoke up, "So Naruto, tell me about yourself." Naruto just rolled his eyes. "DCH, ladies first." Teru grinned. "Oh, so you do have manners." Naruto pursed his lips. Maybe he could begin to like this girl. "I'm Tanaka Teru. My father is head of the Tanaka industry. He is good friends with the Fire and Lightning Daimyo. He owns quite a large portion of stock in Konoha, and is currently making some impressive business deals with a man named Gato in Wave Country." Naruto stopped and looked at her. While that was useful information, he couldn't help but ask, "You said you were going to tell me about yourself, not your father. Are you trying to impress me or something with your father's deals?" Teru flinched, and for once she was the one to start walking. "All right. Well, I'm the daughter of Tanaka." She noticed Naruto fall in step with her and continued talking. "My mother died when I was very young. She was a ninja, while my father was just a small business owner at the time." Teru bit her lip as she continued, "Later as I grew up, when I was about 4 due to some disease my father became sterile." She stopped walking at that and gritted her teeth. Naruto could see her fists clenching, and knew this must be hard for her. "After that my father was always away from the house. He always had a nanny take care of me. When I turned 6 that nanny stopped coming and I was left home all the time. Now he is always on business trips. He wants me to pick up our so-called family business. But that is because he has no one else to give it to. Over the past couple of years, I have seen my father maybe 6 times. He believes that if you throw enough money at a problem it will go away, and that I will forgive him for never being there when I need him." She had tears in her eyes. "And did you? My mother said he was a genius, said he was the most kind loving man she had ever met. You know what sucks? It sucks that I was never able to meet this kind loving man that my mother married." She now had tears rolling down her face, as the anger it once had was slowly draining and was being replaced with sadness. This was really awkward for Naruto. He didn't really know how to deal with situations like this. Especially when the father figure in his life often made comments like, "Shit happens, find a toilet." Naruto just walked up to her and gave her a hug and pat her back. It was rather weird due to their size difference, however it was caring all the same. It took a good 5 minutes of walking with Naruto rubbing his hand on her back for her to finally get a hold of herself. They reached the training ground and Teru wiped her eyes. "Thank you," she said with a small smile, "I needed that." Naruto could only nod. "It's fine, don't bother telling anyone though. I will just deny that I helped you and no one will believe you." He finished with a small grin. Teru smiled. It didn't take long for Kakashi to pop into the training ground after they arrived. Kakashi looked around at everyone and said, Naruto, she also has weird eyes." Naruto cut a glance to Teru, whose eyes were red from crying. He turned back to Kakashi and calmly said, "Kakashi. Shut up." Kakashi gave his usual eye smile before saying, "Alright, to training then." Naruto only nodded. "What will we be learning?" I will not personally look for a translator. One time I found one and it translated what I wanted to say wrong. So either I screwed up, or it did. I didn't like that idea, so if there is a jutsu that is OC it most likely won't be translated. However, anyone please feel free to tell me a good translator and I will try it out. Kakashi shrugged. "I felt that I should teach you one of each elemental group." Teru raised her hand and spoke, "Hatake-san. You do realize it will be impossible for people outside the Uchiha clan to learn techniques from all 5 elemental categories. Then what about elemental affinity? It would be extremely hard for Naruto to learn more than 2th. Naruto tired of the rant cut in, "Teru, shut up please." Teru's mouth closed instantly as if forcefully shut and kept that way. Naruto continued talking. "I have been learning with Kakashi the past year or so now, I know how fast I can learn things. As for elemental affinities, I'm a special case." "Naruto, I'm going to try and teach you Earth Rising Wall, Water Barrier Wall, Phoenix Fire Technique, Futon Sunshine, and a personal jutsu of mine that I created when Kumo entered the 3rd grade Shinobi War, Lightning Absorption." Naruto raised an eyebrow at the last two. "Wind Sunshine." Kakashi only nodded however didn't feel like explaining it to Naruto, only serving to annoy him. Naruto looked at him. "We learning in that order?" Kakashi once again nodded. "Yes, the last one is the hardest, you may not even get it. However it will be fun for me to teach." Naruto narrowed his eyes, he didn't like how that sounded. "Can I join in for the lightning technique?" Both heads turned to Teru who just asked the question. They seemingly forgot that she was here. Naruto just turned to Kakashi, who in turn gave a eye smile and said, "Sure." They then proceeded and Kakashi said, "Watch my chakra flow." Naruto could only nod. Some ninja thought it was cheating to use a tool such as the Sharingan to learn jutsu by copying or just following the chakra flow. Naruto personally exempt himself from such a category. "I don't have a choice," he thought with a grin. Naruto groaned in annoyance as he tried to make Kakashi's technique work. It was bugging him to no end because it required pure physical energy to get it to work. The common concept with lightning chakra is it works, like lightning. It goes in the body at one point and tries to come out. The idea of this technique is for the lightning to go in, and then fuel your chakra supply. However it was much harder than it sounded. His chakra control was decent, but it wasn't anywhere near Kakashi, or embarrassingly enough Teru. The second part of the jutsu is while your body had nearly completely physical energy, in the general area that the lightning is going to hit needs to be turned into spiritual energy that will act as a guide during the transfer of the lightning into the physical energy to charge your chakra. He didn't know whether it was his frustration with the technique, or the fact that it requires getting hit by a low-level lightning jutsu every time you screw up. Teru got lucky and was able to get it on the 4th try. This was because she could cover the majority of the area where the lightning was going to hit through superior chakra control. Kakashi said he uses this technique while channeling the Chidori out of a force of habit that stayed with him since the 3rd Shinobi War. Naruto groaned as he accepted another failure in attempt to get the technique. He didn't want to ask Teru for her help, that would be too embarrassing for him. Naruto recalled the basics of his personal training with gravity was so far simple. Control the force, bend the force to your will, use the force the way you want it to be manipulated, then give a big burst of energy to make it possible. He knew his mother had seen him a few times compressing, however she had never seen him shielding and reflecting it or deflecting, and truthfully, he didn't want her to until it was complete. However, he would love to reflect a small lightning jutsu back in Kakashi's face. The lightning jutsu came his way for the 17th time that day and Naruto could only grin. He moved from his ready stance, to standing up straight, arm outstretched, palm open and facing the oncoming jutsu. That's when it happened. The effect was instant. While not the result Naruto was hoping for, it was the result Kakashi was looking for. Not particularly as I instructed, but good job. The lightning seemed to absorb into Naruto's palm, but Naruto knew better than that. The lightning dissipated upon reaching the shield. It was rather depressing to find out that he could not reflect jutsu, only physical things. However, it was still nice to know that he can safely say he was able to perform his personal technique. Frustration pays off, I guess. Naruto mused as he looked down at his hands. Teru came up and congratulated him on learning the jutsu. Naruto gave a nod to her in acknowledgement. The sun was now setting. It was a rather long day for Naruto. Wake up, strip a girl at the ramen stand, walk said girl back to your house to give her a shirt, leave the house in frustration when you see your parents playing grab ass on the couch, learn several jutsu, perform your personal jutsu. It was a good day. Naruto said nothing and began to make his way home, causing a frown to appear on Teru's face. Kakashi was frowning too. However, he was frowning because what he saw was a kid that may very well be broken tomorrow walking home. That night the three in the training field went home to an empty house. Naruto came in the door with a sigh. His body had been beat quite a bit today learning the jutsu. Hell, he wasn't even able to learn one of them. However, he would never tell Kakashi that. "Mom, I'm home," yelled Naruto into the house. Inwardly he was a bit worried. He left the house in a rush earlier that day when he saw his mom with Itachi. He didn't know whether it was because how he saw it, or his past experience with pedophiliac characters, luckily women in the orphanage. He hated the pedophiles in the orphanage for the sole reason that they made him feel helpless. He hated the idea that his mother was doing something like that. I mean, of course it is a lot different after he thought about it. He was a kid. Itachi was killing people for hire when he was Naruto's age. Still, he wouldn't bring himself to the level of apologizing regardless if he was in the wrong or not. The subject didn't want him to even bring it up again, and he hoped it wouldn't. He would just tell his mom later why it bugged him. A few minutes later a thought came to him. Where the hell is mom? Academy hours don't keep her out this late. Naruto walked over to the fridge, the usual spot his mother left notes if she was going to be gone longer than usual that day. However, upon extensive searching Naruto could only frown. No note. Naruto walked into the living room and his eyes widened somewhat when he saw what was on the table. He nearly ran up to the small sword, or the large knife of Itachi's. Whatever you wanted to call it. He set it down off the side of the table and grabbed two notes taped to a videotape. He unfolded the one on top and it read, "Naruto. My son. I hope that even after this you will still be able to call me your mother. I love you very dearly, and if it was up to me this would never have happened. You will find out tomorrow that the Uchiha clan will have been killed off by Uchiha Itachi, with Rikumirin being an innocent bystander. I cannot stress enough how much I do not want to go and leave you alone. However, I have never lied to you Naruto and I don't plan to start now. Naruto." The Hokage gave Itachi a mission, upon stress from the High Council to kill off the Uchiha clan. The plan was going to go fine until recent event. Recent event? Or not so recent. The books always teach that the Cage of the Mist is an old man, and the son Daime Mizukage. This is a lie. When I was in school a young girl not much older than you accepted the title of Mizukage. The Civil War, while it continued, no one has been able to join in on the fight from the outside. We know nothing about the Mizukage and I have been tasked to get information about her. So I regret to tell you that I won't be able to be in your life as much as I expect. Hopefully if I am accepted by the Mizukage, she will give me a Junon team and I will be able to see you. Teardrops stained a majority of the paper. Mom. Naruto thought with a frown as he continued reading. He was slightly afraid she would start repeating herself with how stressed she must have been writing this. This is hard. I never wanted it to be this hard, my son. I don't want to be like all those other people that have betrayed you. However, I have no choice. If I stayed it would be exile, if I left. Like I am well. You see the effects. I have left you with a videotape of things me and Itachi feel you should know to expand your arsenal of jutsu. Also so you don't feel bored in the academy. The note under this one is a letter to the teachers and the Hokage telling them I give you permission to skip the grades you overperform in and can test out of. I have left you all I have, even to the point where I signed everything over into your name and made you your personal bank account. My son will never be on the street again. Naruto gave an amused smile, that was so like his mother to get angry while writing something sad and then spazzing on the letter and writing in all capitals to express frustration. Itachi, as you can see, left you as Wakizashi. I have told Kakashi a way that you can contact me that won't be caught, unless someone who cares if overly paranoid. However, we have no one like that involved in my plan. I would write it in this letter, however, with the chance of someone finding this and reading it before you. I don't want to risk it. I really should have thought of that beforehand. But I've written too much already. I don't think I could go through this again. I am running out of room, so I will finish this, sadly saying, I love you my son. Love, Mom. If you can't call me Mom after this, I understand, however always know that you will be my son. Rather out of place at the bottom was the note. P.S. Ask the Hokage about Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto went through various emotions reading the letter. She went into fairly good detail on her mission and why she had to leave. It didn't mean that Naruto had to accept it. But he did. He understood that this could have happened any moment having a ninja as a parent. He just didn't expect to lose a father figure in his mother in one night. Naruto was glad that he would be able to graduate early, however he couldn't help but feel, was the price worth it? Naruto stayed silent for a long time. His mother was likely at the Uchiha complex. With that thought in mind, he ran over and locked the front door. He ran back and stuffed the notes under a couch seat, slipped Itachi's wakizashi in his cloak and utilized what he learned that day. Futon Shunshine. In a swirl of wind he was gone. No trace of him being there left behind, besides the small sway in the curtains. I have decided to save the majority of this Uchiha clan, which is overdone and everyone has read before. So I will just leave the important part. The reason for this is I will make a one-shot called, What Happened to Rin? Based on this story and post it sometime. Other than that, the Uchiha process goes on normally. Naruto had been running through the Uchiha district for at least 5 minutes. He could run pretty damn fast, so he had to be coming on them quickly. Then he saw it. Near the back of the district at the head clan house, Naruto found both Rin and Itachi coming out of the house. Naruto jumped down, truly surprising them. Naruto, what the hell are you doing here? Rin nearly yelled as she ran up and hugged him. That nearly crushed Naruto, in a both physical and mental state. I just wanted to say goodbye, Naruto said with a frown. Rin could only nod as she hugged Naruto, her tears getting the back of his shirt wet. Naruto looked at Itachi, who broke his emotionless mask to give him a pained expression and a small smile. Naruto assumed that was the most he could hope to get out of the young man right then. He was busy killing his family. Itachi came up behind the pair and said, "We need to go." He grabbed Rin's hair and cut a couple locks off and scattered them by the wall in front of his former house. He then came up and slit Rin's wrist, coating part of the kunai in blood. Rin quickly healed the wound and Itachi sent black flames, much to the surprise of Rin and Naruto at the wall. Itachi quickly spoke, "Don't touch that. It will burn for 7 days and nights unless sealed." Rin kissed Naruto on the cheek. Itachi called out, "Rin, get out of here." Rin could only sigh, "The last time I will be able to hold my son like this." She gave him a long hard hug and stepped away. She had tears in her eyes and gave a small wave before vanishing. Itachi sighed as he watched the scene. The Hokage, shouldn't he have put her on this mission? Especially since she was taking care of a child. "You're a good kid, Naruto," Itachi said, and he vanished in a flock of ravens. Naruto caught a falling piece of paper just from when Itachi left, and it read, "I suggest that sometime, not tonight, but sometime in the next year, you check the house of Uchiha Shisui." Naruto looked over the note in his hand, then tossed it into the fire. Today was a bad day, but at least he knew the truth. Naruto just knew he would be seeing the Hokage tomorrow, then going to school. Hopefully that will take his mind off all the chaos. "What can I do for you, Hokage-sama?" The old man behind the desk took the pipe out of his mouth and gave the man in the doorway a warm smile, like a grandfather. "Kakashi, please sit down. I have a mission for you." Kakashi raised an eyebrow at that. "Sir? Why didn't you just send it to Anbu headquarters?" Kakashi asked questioningly. The Hokage gave a cough. "Yes, well, Kakashi, the reason being is this mission is specifically for you." Kakashi looked confused until the Hokage finished speaking. "I am sending you on a mission to find Jiraiya because you are one of the only people in Konoha that are particularly close to him, this of course being because you were taught under his student. This could be long-term, however you must tell Jiraiya that he needs to come back." Kakashi nodded at that. "All right. What rank is this S rank?" The Hokage cut in. Kakashi pursed his lips and merely nodded, "Okay. Where was Jiraiya last seen?" The Hokage looked up from a stack of papers on his desk and smiled, "Snow Country." Kakashi paled. The trip was going to take a couple weeks to get there and a couple weeks to get back. "Sir, what about Naruto? With his mother and Itachi gone, if I leave he won't have anyone to take care of him." Sarutobi gave Kakashi a look. "Oh, now Kakashi, I am sure that Naruto will be fine. Are you suggesting that he can't take care of himself?" Kakashi shook his head. "No, I didn't mean that. I meant with Itachi and Rin leaving his life. If I left he may feel all alone or something." The Sandaime frowned briefly before his normal gaze returned. "Well, I am sure he will be fine. I think Naruto may take this time to make friends in the academy." Kakashi pursed his lips, however it was unseen. It would seem that Rin left him a gift before she left Hokage-sama. Kakashi looked at the Hokage's eyes locked with Kakashi's single eye. Kakashi gave an eye smile and said, "Signed papers for Naruto to test out of years of the academy." The Hokage's face ran through quite a few emotions and looked at Kakashi with a frown. "I wanted Naruto to try and have a normal childhood. Now he will be graduating early and getting alienated like most genius do." Kakashi looked at the Hokage showing concern. "Hokage-sama, if it isn't too much to ask, why do you have such an interest in Naruto? Why am I supposed to go get Jiraiya?" The Hokage looked at Kakashi before straightening up and putting his hands on the desk before him. "You see, Kakashi, the village has severely weakened since the Kyuubi attack. We just lost 2 more exceptional ninja. While necessary, we still lost them. You are our best ninja that can actively go into the field right now." The Hokage sighed. "I am bringing back Jiraiya in hopes to train Naruto to be a heavy hitter like his father." Kakashi gave the Hokage an incredulous look. "Surely you're joking? I know you have seen Naruto. You know he has the Rinnegan, and you want him to be a ninja that runs on 3 jutsu? Why the hell would you want to do that?" The Hokage gave him a look that stated he was out of line. "You seem to forget that Namikaze Minato was the first ninja to ever receive a SS rank status in the bingo book. He in fact still to this day is the only one in the bingo book to have that status." Kakashi gave an amused look for once. "And you don't think a genius with the Rinnegan will be able to achieve as such?" Silence reigned the room. "Touché," thought the old Hokage. "That is besides the point. The fact of the matter is that we need big hitters. However, along with big hitters we need the ideal team to back him up. This is why I don't want him to graduate early." Kakashi groaned. "You can't seriously expect him to stick in the academy, can you? He figured out how to do the passing exam the day he joined the academy. Now he is rolling on 2 years in the academy." Sarutobi held up a hand to silence Kakashi. "I have a plan that I may follow through on that will allow him to graduate the academy, then eventually fall in line with the class of this year." Kakashi couldn't help but glare this time. He had grown to be a father to the boy, and fatherly instincts were starting to kick in. What the hell is so important about Naruto staying with this year in the academy? Sarutobi sighed. "Uchiha Sasuke, Sakura Haruno, and Naruto would be the team. You would end up being their Jounin sensei. The Uchiha would mostly learn under you, learning how to use the Sharingan. Sakura Haruno has the best chakra control since Tsunade, and Naruto is. Well, Naruto. He will likely by the time not have a lot that you can teach him and will be learning from other sources." Kakashi pursed his lips. He could see the logic in that. It was the team design of all the great teams in history. Shodaime, Nidaime, Madara. Taijutsu expert with short-range ninjutsu. A long-range ninjutsu expert, and a talented genjutsu and ninjutsu user. Sarutobi, Koharu, Homura. Sarutobi being the frontal fighter with summons and ninjutsu as well as exceptional bojutsu. Koharu following with impressive aim with ranged ninjutsu and weapons. With Homura's expert tactician skills. The legendary Sannin. As years progressed, the legendary teams quickly fell into this template. A clown with large potential, a girl with amazing chakra control, and a genius with a mind unmatched. The genius, Minato, who was taught by Jiraiya, went on to teach himself, Rin, and Obito. Obito had the potential to be great. Rin is the best medic Konoha has on active duty. He himself, as said by the Hokage, is the best ninja that they have now, in his opinion only matched by Itachi. Then beaten by the Sandaime. He could certainly see the logic in the Hokage to form another team of assured greatness. Just did he want his son to go through that? "What is your plan for Naruto if you allow him to graduate early?" Kakashi asked curiously. The Hokage looked at Kakashi. "Well, assuming he graduates with this year, I will have their sensei make them wait a year before joining the Chunin exams. Then if they decide to go, Naruto will be going to the Chunin exams held in Amida-Koure. It pains me to say that no matter how well Naruto does, I can't in good conscience allow Naruto to be promoted to Chunin." Kakashi looked at the Hokage with a raised eyebrow. "What if he does so well that he wins the exam? Last time a person who won the Chunin exam but didn't get promoted was Toppa Iwa. He was the most surprising ninja, being able to destroy his foes with amazing earth manipulation. However, when he was denied his promotion after winning the tournament, he quit being a ninja, and became a construction worker. What if Naruto decides to quit?" The Hokage smiled. "I have a feeling he won't quit." Kakashi didn't like the smile that was placed across the old Hokage's face at all. "So your plan is, regardless of Naruto's performance, is to hold him back until he can get in line with Sakura and Sasuke?" The Hokage puffed on his pipe and said, "Precisely." Kakashi, having spent a lot of time around Naruto already, just smirked and said one line that put the Hokage in a state of unease. "Good luck." Naruto woke up that morning truly feeling the effects of everything that had happened the past night. It was like an emotional hangover, without the trash and puke looming about the house. Naruto had been acting groggy all morning, dragging his feet around from room to room as he made breakfast. In truth, the leaving of Rin hurt him more than he expected it would. Naruto knew her circumstances, he could understand her getting attached to him as her son rather quickly. However, he never expected himself to become attached to an individual as much as he had her. It came to the point over the past 2 years of his life where he was just accustomed to call her mom, without question. She helped him learn, she cared for him, she fed him. However, he knew the real reason he had gotten so attached was the simplest of them all: she was there for him. He didn't even know how fast a kid was supposed to get attached to an adoptive parent, however it didn't matter to him. Parenting aside, Rin became one of Naruto's best friends. Now she was gone. Naruto sighed as he poured a bowl of cereal, didn't even bother to look up when he heard a pop in the air of his apartment. "Yo!" came the voice of the only man who bothered to give him the time of day that was still in his life. "The Hokage has assigned me a mission to find Jiraiya the Toad Sannin, so," he drawled, "I may be gone for a while." He finished with his casual eye smile. However, Naruto only thought one thing: was in my life. Naruto shrugged, "Yeah, whatever. When do you expect to be back?" Kakashi looked at Naruto, an invisible frown gracing his face. "I don't know, it could be a month or a year. When Jiraiya doesn't want to be found, he won't be." Naruto pursed his lips. What the fuck was he going to do without the only people that gave a shit about him for a year? Kakashi grinned at Naruto a bit. "Hey, at least I left all the things to you in my will in case anything happens on the mission." Naruto rolled his eyes. "Oh, that serves me greatly, thanks. I mean, what more could I ask for?" The great Kakashi the copy ninja turned into a father figure. Why the hell would I want him around when I could have his vastly large selection of porno that he expectly hid from my mother figure for a year? Annoyed with Kakashi's stupid sense of humor at a time like this, Naruto sighed and said, "Aren't you mad?" Naruto started looking at Kakashi. "I mean, she was your teammate and then suddenly was out of our lives in an instant because an old man said so? Now you two have to leave. The past years I have been with you, nothing has happened with you guys. Basic patrols and missions for you and Itachi. Then suddenly you are all gone in an instant." Kakashi frowned and played with the idea of telling Naruto the truth. While the Hokage didn't personally say he had to take a secrecy oath, he knew that their conversation was meant to be kept secret. He just hoped that Naruto could deal with it and still turn out as normal as possible. "No. I don't like it. I hate the fact that we have all left you alone, after being there for you for the past couple years. However, we signed up to be ninja, and as ninja we have to follow the word of the Hokage, even if we don't like what we have to do. Ask mature Kunoichi what they think about having to follow orders. I bet they love sleeping with pigs before they kill them." Naruto looked annoyed. "If I became Hokage, I would change this world." Kakashi looked amused. "Oh really, Naruto, and now you want to be Hokage?" Naruto looked at him with a raised eyebrow. "No, of course not. I much rather actually be useful in combat and not having the only exercise I get be for my fingers because I have to sign documents all day." Kakashi wanted to groan. "Why bring it up then?" "Alright then. Well, I have to be off, Naruto. I'll leave you a message from your mother later today while you are at school. I suggest you get there soon, since you are already running late." Naruto checked his watch then looked up. "I'm not running late, everyone else is just running fast," he said as he grabbed his gear and made his way out of the house. Kakashi took a few moments staring at the door, where Naruto just was inside. "I wonder how he will be when we all see each other again." X 304, 303, 302, 301, bingo. Naruto counted as he walked down the hall and into the classroom 301, which was Mori Dojo. He assumed today was their sparring practice day. Naruto looked over the class below. He didn't recognize anyone except a few faces from the ramen stand and Teru. Naruto walked down the steps earning curious looks from the teacher. The teacher was rather tan and had a scar running across his nose. "Can I help you?" he asked curiously as Naruto approached. Naruto just handed him the paper Rin had left for him, allowing him to move through the academy ranks. The scarred Chunin looked at Naruto, then at his confused class. The teacher straightened himself and coughed into his hand. "Alright class, I would like to introduce you all to our new student." Naruto looked amused as he saw the kid who repeatedly got stepped on at the ramen stand said, "Son of a bitch," rather quietly, however when it was said in a room of silence that majority heard it. "Uzumaki Naruto." The teacher turned to said person. "Please have a seat, I'm Umino Iruka." It didn't go unnoticed to Naruto that the teacher had a frown on his face, however not nearly as bad as some others he had seen. Naruto walked over to the very corner of the room and sat down and closed his eyes. He didn't want to be here. Hell, he could think of 100 things better to be doing than getting stuck in a school that you were able to test out of on your first day. Naruto could hear that they were going to begin their weekly sparring test. In truth, it was just a tournament that the students participated in every week. "You are given a minute to fight, Nothing lethal is allowed. Person who makes the most connecting blows wins and advances to the next round. Iruka looked to the corner where Naruto was. Uzumaki, are you going to be joining us today, or do you think you are too good to be training with your fellow students? Naruto peered out to Iruka. My fellow students are in second year. Naruto called back. Iruka didn't really like Naruto's dismissive attitude. Naruto, please come up and face off against Aya. Naruto stood up and looked over to the female who stood up and walked to the front of the room. Aya appeared to be your average kunoichi. She appeared to be rather fit. She had black hair tied up with a senbon, bits of her spiky hair sticking out. She wore a tight-fitting tank top. She had arm guards on each arm, that revealed only the top parts of her arm before disappearing under the tank top. Her pants were baggy and puffy and went just below the knee. The remainder of her leg was assorted with straps leading to her ninja socks. The only remaining article that stood out about her were the various places that you could hold skulls. Naruto stood off from her, watching her as she went into the basic academy stance. Naruto didn't bother getting into a stance, he just opened his arms and motioned for her to come at him. The only thing he really had to worry about with the current style he was using was someone being quite a deal faster than him. He didn't think it would happen, however. In the academy, basic training of fighting styles with Kakashi and Itachi had increased his speed to an amount that would sustain him for the time being. Surely he would need to work on it, but it wasn't a big deal while in the academy. He was using that time to learn as many jutsu as possible. Aya came at him quicker than he expected. While it was impressive, it was no threat to him. Aya came at him with a large right hook, which Naruto ducked. Using her momentum, she spun around and came to sweep her leg at Naruto, only for him to hop over her leg. Naruto bounced back a few feet in order for her not to attempt another sweep. Aya, when out of the sweep, was on her knee searching Naruto. Naruto smirked. While I am happy that you are checking me out, I don't think now is the best time, Aya. Perhaps after class I could show you some moves. Naruto grinned at how he got her flustered. Time was running out and he knew it, and he would be damned if he got a tie with an academy student. Naruto motioned Aya to come once more. However, before she was able to even get in close to him, Naruto was able to give a good knee to the gut. Aya fell over with the wind knocked out of her. Naruto in turn fell down after her to sit on her back for the remainder of the fight, which she of course struggled to get out of. However, Naruto had her hands, and she couldn't roll over. Naruto looked over the surprised faces of students and could honestly care less about what people were thinking. The match was called and Aya sat down. The ranks of the tournament fell shorter, no one really standing out without the use of ninjutsu or weapons. That was until the final match came. Aya, Iruka started. You let Naruto get the best of you by playing on your emotions. If you let your emotions take control in battle, you become far open and unfocused. The first battle you let your emotions get the best on the field will likely be your last battle. Everyone, write that down. Naruto vs. Reina. Iruka spoke. For the final round of this tournament, ninjutsu, genjutsu, and shinobi tools are allowed in addition to taijutsu. However, I reserve the right to call the match at any time, at which point you must stop. Naruto stood across from the girl who he saw in the ramen stand before. She had blue hair that matched her blue gi and pants. The gi was cut open slightly at the top and at the bottom. Naruto rolled his eyes at the fact that she was 12 and was showing off a black thong that was riding up a bit high. She still had the headband covering her eyes. Her pants were most interesting due to a long zipper spiraling down the right side of her pants. Nothing else was out of the ordinary about her besides the fact that her ninja shoes were the custom edition that went up the leg like a sock. Naruto watched as she unfolded a large double-edged blade that had a hook and serrated teeth on the blade. She got into a ready stance that consisted of her leaning back slightly, blade behind her in her left hand with her right hand open and forward. Fight. Nothing happened, much to the student's disappointment. Naruto observed her from a distance. She didn't move, likely attempting to hear him. He now of course assumed she was blind due to not instantly going into a Hyuga's stance. Naruto watched as the tension in the room raised between the two. The class seemed to be on their toes waiting for someone to make a move. Naruto grinned as he observed the class and said, I give up. A lot of the class looked like he is joking, right? Naruto however loved the looks. Too much fighting, may break a nail or something. People in the audience that were watching rolled their eyes, highly disappointed at the anticlimactic tournament. Iruka checked his watch after everyone sat down and said, alright, off to lunch, meet back in the classroom afterwards. Naruto, please stay behind. Naruto shook his head as he walked out. Sorry, I'm starving. I'll see you sometime during lunch after I have finished eating. After that he promptly left. Iruka stared where Naruto had been formerly. The student was sure to be ahead of the classmates. It was odd to see him go through the tournament and just decide to not fight. He had toyed with the third best student in sparring. He doesn't seem to like the idea of following his instructions, but he honestly didn't have to. When the exams would roll around, Naruto would just be able to walk in and finish the exams with a maximum score and walk out regardless if he was here during school hours or not. Iruka looked at Naruto's form outside the window and sighed, "I'll have to talk to him about this later." Iruka thought. The scarred teacher went over to his chair and leaned back with a sigh and said out loud, "Teaching young ninja is why I became a teacher. Teaching the kids that young ninja are is making me miserable." Naruto walked outside and sat down with the last lunch Rin made for him, likely the last lunch she will ever make for him. It was sad a bit. He even contemplated waiting in a lunch line, however by the time he sat down, he didn't want to get up again. Naruto rested his head on the back of the tree he sat down at. He could see students from his former class walking around, a few girls fawning over the black-haired kid. He was going to be a fairly good ninja if his brother was any example. Although for now, he had years to catch up before he even got up to where Naruto was in skill. The blonde-haired girl that was fawning over the boy spotted him and gave him a wave, causing Naruto to pale. Now I remember that there were more reasons that I wanted to switch classes. Luckily she didn't come over, so Naruto just waved back with a smile. While it caused her to blush, she left him alone, and that was the goal in his book. Naruto dug into his lunch and brought out a small container carrying rice, then proceeded to eat it with the chopsticks given to him in the bag. Naruto began taking small bites of rice, thinking over the past years with his mom and family that seemingly disappeared in an instant. Naruto heard the break of a twig and peered his eye open. Teru was standing before him with her lunch in hand. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Here to toss more food on my clothes?" he said with an amused smirk. Teru blushed, remembering their first meeting. "No, I'm just coming to have lunch with you. Besides, you look lonely." Naruto wanted to laugh. "Yeah, I guess I kinda do. I was only an orphan until about 2 years ago." Teru looked Naruto in the face, trying to figure out if it was a joke or not, if she should truly apologize. Naruto of course recognized this, and leaned his head down and brought his lunch bag to his face and sniffed into the back. "Hey, I'm sorry." Teru nearly shouted in panic. Her hand outstretched, going towards Naruto's shoulder. Naruto sprang up as he sensed her hand coming forward and pulled out a bag of chips. "Sorry for what?" Naruto asked innocently. However, before she could reply, Naruto grinned and said, "Teru, while I beg to differ, bad fashion sense is not a crime." Teru rolled eyes and huffed, crossing her arms. "Oh, shut up." Naruto tried to gather a witty reply to that, but before he could say silence is a bitcher, he heard a young male yell, "Yo Teru." Naruto glazed up to the voice. It was a boy who was relatively tall for his age, standing at about 5 feet 1 inch. He had short black unruly hair that reminded him of his own hair, maybe a tad shorter. He wore a lot of green. His pants were green camouflage. He wore a green flak jacket, that oddly looked a lot like the Chunin flak jackets. The only other notable thing about his appearance was the additional tool bag he had strapped to his waist. Next to him was a young girl with dark brown hair with chocolate eyes to match. Her hair was done up with what appeared to be a dagger, however he didn't want to ask, "Why do you stick knives in your hair?" Only to look like an idiot, because it may very well not be a knife. She stood nearly the same height as the boy. Her attire consisted of tight black pants with many pockets. The pants had a white cloth sticking out of the side of her tool bag. Her top was a long-sleeved fishnet shirt covered by a very dark purple tank top that was so dark if they were in shade he assumed it would be black. She had a single belt going across her chest that appeared to be slots for kunai. "Tenshi. Takai. Hey, I have someone I want you to meet," Teru yelled to the approaching duo. Naruto frowned. While it was nice knowing their names, it was useless not knowing who was who. When they two sat down, before any talk could start, Naruto quickly said, "Tenshi?" It was said with some apprehension in his voice, which he hoped they didn't notice. The girl looked up into him. "Yes?" Naruto inwardly grinned. "I was just wondering why your parents would name you Angel and then you grow up to be a killer." Tenshi scowled slightly at that. "Teru, why are you hanging out with this kid?" Naruto took the opportunity to give Teru the look. "Yes, Teru, why are you hanging out with this kid?" With full attention on Teru, Naruto leaned back and pulled out a book while Teru told the two of what happened after her public stripping. Naruto opened a book called Advanced Nature Manipulation, the other elements, and read as much as he could in peace while the three surrounding him talked amongst themselves. While Teru went on about learning a jutsu under the teachings of the copy nin Hatake Kakashi, Naruto continued on reading about the nature elements of wood, ice, iron and so forth. Much to his displeasure, they began to pay attention to him once again. This in turn earned him a book snatching courtesy of Tenshi. "Why are you reading about nature manipulation? My mother always told me a book like this was useless. She always said the original ninja learned their ways by feeling it. She always told me a shinobi's element was based on their personality." Naruto smiled and held his hand out for his book. "Let me guess, you are a lightning element?" Tenshi looked surprised for a moment as she held the book out to him. "How did you know?" she asked. Naruto snatched it out of her hands with a roll of the eye. "You're impulsive." Tenchi glowered at him at that and pushed some hair out of her face. "Well, it is a shame that you won't have an element Uzumaki, because being an asshole is not a characteristic of an element." Naruto grinned. "Sure it is, fire because my words burn. Water because my words make people cry. Wind because my words scar them. Earth because my words crush people. Finally lightning because my words get deep in your skin and mess up your insides. Oh, and by the way, Tenchi, everyone has a nature element. I thought you knew that." Before Tenchi could respond, Naruto quickly turned to Takai. "So, do you take pride in being silent?" Naruto asked with a pointed glance at the boy who had been silent the entire time. The boy shook his head back and forth quickly. "No, Tenchi-chan just said for me not to embarrass her." Naruto gained the biggest grin on his face at the beginning of the sentence. "Oh well, it is okay now, because she doesn't need you to stay quiet anymore. Isn't that right, Tenchi-chan?" Tenchi's sweat dropped. She could tell from just meeting Naruto that he wasn't below using blackmail or taunting a person. Tenchi sighed and shook her head. "No use now, right?" Naruto was going to say something, but the loud lunch bell rang across the grounds of the academy. The people around him stood up and grabbed their things. "All right, well, I'm going to see you all in class. I'm going to head to my locker," Tenchi said before she rushed off. Teru pursed her lips watching her friend retreat. "I'm sorry, Naruto." Said boy who was reading his book looked up rather annoyed at the second interruption at his attempt to read. "About what?" he asked as he saw Teru and Takai standing around. Teru seemed shy about what she was about to say while Takai looked at her and seemed to understand. Takai sighed and cut in. "She is trying to say that she is sorry. Tenchi can come off a little strong." "I would know. I've lived with her the past 5 years." Naruto raised an eyebrow at the last part, but didn't want to pry the first time he met someone. Naruto just nodded in understanding. "It's fine, I don't care really," he answered honestly. Takai extended his hand with a smile and said, "All right, that's good then. I'm Takai." Naruto looked at the hand for a moment before accepting the handshake, gathered that, "I'm Naruto." There was a moment of silence around the people there. Takai backed off for a moment, seeing if either of them were going to join him in walking back to class. There was an odd moment when everyone just stood there. Naruto's eyes darted to the both of them, while Teru's were locked on Takai as if they were asking him to leave. Takai grinned. "Yano? I am going to go catch up with Tenchi. I will see you two in class." Teru grinned for a moment when he left, saying things with you eyes is good, completely silent. It was very hard to even catch what one was trying to say unless you were the person spoken to. She spun around to face Naruto only for him to be looking at her directly in the face a foot away. What was the crap about? What did you want to stay for? Yep. She forgot she was trying to be secretive around a boy far advanced among his peers. Teru sighed and gave Naruto a hug before he could react. "I heard about what happened with Itachi and your mother, Rin." Naruto wanted to push her off. He had been keeping up a tough exterior all day. No need for him to suddenly crumble now. However, he couldn't help but melt in her arms for a moment. Soon enough he returned the hug and smiled. While the two couldn't say they were super close, she was there for him. To him, that's all that mattered. The hug ended and he pulled away. Their height difference made the scene look a bit funny, however it didn't matter. "Feeling any better?" "Quite a bit. Thanks, Teru." "Well. What guy doesn't feel better after being smothered in a girl's goodies?" He used finger quotes for emphasis. "However, it was not very ladylike of you to do that to me, Teru-chan." He teasingly scolded. Teru grinned. "Nothing you haven't already seen before." Naruto couldn't help it, he blushed. The bluntness of the statement combined with the truth of it, he couldn't help himself. Not to mention she began walking off right after she said that. Teru turned around quickly with a smirk and looked at Naruto. "Naruto? Goodies? Really?" Naruto grinned. "Oh definitely, I love having the vocabulary of a hormone-raging 12-year-old civilian." Teru could only shook her head with a smile and walk off. "See you around, Naruto." Naruto watched her retreating form for a moment before calling out, "Hey Teru." She turned around with a raised eyebrow. "Naruto, do you always make your goodbyes this long? These are valuable minutes of your life that you are wasting." Teru had a huge grin on her face that caused Naruto to smile. It was infectious. Ringed eyes peered at her as she stood there and Naruto spoke. "I just want to say thanks, it meant a lot." Teru nodded with a caring smile on her face. "I know." She then walked back to class. Naruto chose to sit at the tree and read a bit more and just go to class late. It was far more fun that way. However, he felt that someone jinxed him today due to the fact that there was a third interruption. "Hello young Naruto. Can I talk to you for a moment?" Naruto peered up and saw the last person he wanted to talk to that day. The third Hokage. Itachi was flying through the forests at impressive speeds. Him and his partner, but more importantly friend, had just split paths. Itachi was tired, there was no other way to put it. It took everything he had, plus 2 soldier pills to slay his clan. However, while he was physically tired, nothing could compare to the mental drain he received during his task. He could remember Rin's face. It was a look of disgust at what they had done. He could remember the look Naruto had given him as both he and his mother figure left. It couldn't compare though to how he was feeling. He knew one thing was for certain, he would be going to hell. The sickness in his stomach, the aching in his heart. He had been trained since he was a little kid to be the perfect warrior, the perfect assassin, truthfully perfect in the shinobi arts. He knew already that at his young age he could likely give the most experienced ninja a run for their money. Although the thought that him, the perfect weapon, trained personally by his father to be the shining jewel of their clan, had killed them all. It made him sick. The action was done, there was no way to take back what he had done. He wished he could have. He knew from that point on that there is a fine line in the ninja world that he would never cross again. That line was family. The ninja world tells you that in order to be a good ninja, you have to void yourself of all emotion. To forget about family, forget about friends, you are a tool for your leader. It was a belief Itachi had actively followed all his life, until tonight. From this point forward, Itachi would always put his family first, as it should be. Itachi was snapped out of his thoughts as he was jumping from tree to tree by a man jumping in front of him, arm outstretched. In his weakened state he wasn't able to redirect the attack or properly dodge it. He took a clothesline right across the chest as he fell to the darkened forest floor. Leaves scattered on the impact of Itachi spinning and landing in a kneeling position looking up to his attacker. The attacker stood in the full moon's light on a high branch that gave a good view of Konoha, and parts of the burning Uchiha district. He wore a hooded black cloak with red clouds. Itachi jumped up to the high branch realizing that this was his contact. He looked to the man beside him, gaining a better look. He had an orange mask with stripes going across most the way starting at the left side. The mask was fit with a single eye hole. Itachi idly wondered how he could see properly out of that and still fight with such a blind spot. Itachi sickly looked out over Konoha, and his family's district when a cold voice spoke venomously. "Why didn't you kill them all?" The man snapped at the end. Itachi looked wary for a moment before cautiously speaking. "I deemed them to be of no value," he said with an internal smile, knowing he had spared his mother and brother. "I shall determine that," spoke the cold voice of the man. A savage punch thrown by the masked man caught Itachi off guard and sailed him through the air, crashing into the tree across from where he was formerly standing. The impact burst the bark off the tree and left Itachi on one knee. Itachi reached behind his back for his Anbu sword, getting ready for a possible attack. The masked man tilted his head at the now drawn Anbu sword. "You dare to defy me?" The man reached for a mask and unclipped it, speaking while punctuating every word. "Then I shall grant your wish." The mask fell from his face, revealing a spinning eye to Itachi that pierced into his gaze. However, Itachi had to react fast, as black flames shot out and nearly scorched him. Itachi stood on the ground of the forest floor looking up to the face of a young man who was missing an eye. However, the look he was giving Itachi chilled him to the bone. How Itachi lived, and where he traveled is a story for another day. X. Note this takes place a few days ahead of Naruto and the Sandaime, who are going to talk. Sorry if this confuses anyone. It is about a week ahead. Rin had rushed as fast as she could to get out of Fire Country. She was catching up to the Root Assault Squad that were currently wearing Iwa headbands headed to the Mist Village wall. She could feel her skin start to get wet as she ran through the fog, jumping on trees and ducking and dodging on the forest floor. She knew that they were soon going to hit the metaphorical wall of the mist, which in truth was a large river that boxes in their village. After a good few minutes, and getting a good view of the village, she could feel herself pass through a barrier. The barrier was rather ingenious, she could only assume. It was masked very carefully. She doubted that anyone short of her or Tsunade's level of chakra control would be able to notice such a subtle genjutsu. It showed no lasting effects, it didn't change the environment. You just pass through it. Even the most brilliant ninja would have been hard-pressed to detect it, especially with all the chakra that life itself gives off. Most ninja would likely brush it off as just an odd current in nature chakra. The thought of said chakra made her idly wonder about how her sensei was doing, wherever he was. It also made her think about where the perverted old bastard that taught her sensei was. She knew that Minato was planning to learn how to control nature chakra like his sensei, however complications occurred that earned him an untimely death. She shook her head to free herself of thoughts. Now was not the time to let her mind wander. She went back to the barrier and tried as best as she could to sync herself up with the surrounding area. She was not used to large-scale intruder seals layered with complex yet subtle genjutsu. However, she tried the best she could and attempted to not stick out like some 12-year-old running through green forests in orange screaming his own jutsu. The team of Root jumped into a clearing, and seemed to go over a quick attack pattern. Although, the Mizukage living up to her profile was there shortly. The fighting was quick and painful. In Konoha, Root is a secret organization of elite ninja. It is supposed to not exist. Their ninja rival the skill level of some of the greatest Jounin and Anbu to be known in Konoha. Some even surpass it. What made them worse were they were all trained to be like ghosts, never leave evidence behind unless it leads their enemies in the opposite direction. However, despite them being elite, and having superior training than nearly anyone in Konoha, there was something they didn't account for. There is a reason why the Kage of a village is the strongest ninja of their respective village. As such, the elite ninja assault units of Konoha, feared by missing ninjas around the world. To the Mizukage, they were nobodies. Rin stopped her inner thoughts as she looked at the Mizukage, who was looking directly at her with a smile that seemed out of place on her pretty face. She held up one finger and motioned Rin to come to her. Rin had a brain. It told her she would be crazy to not listen to the grinning woman. How she survived and was accepted is a story for another day. Naruto. Came the voice of the old man. It has been a good couple years since we have even spoken, hasn't it? Naruto looked at the man with a frown, annoyed that his reading had been interrupted once again. Yes, 2 years, but Hokage-sama. If I may ask, why are you here? The wise old man gave a smile. Well, truthfully, just to say hello. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Say hello when you likely have a ton of paperwork to do? The old man blushed momentarily before retaining his composure. Yes, well, I felt that after 30 years I should take a break. However, that isn't the only reason that I came out here. I had to ask you why you felt the need to graduate before the other students your age? Naruto shrugged as he stood up, book in hand. Because Professor. Naruto drawled using his leader's nickname. I have been able to graduate the academy since day one. Sarutobi stroked his beard for a moment before speaking. But surely there is more you can learn about. What about the history of Konoha and its Hokages? You may have been able to pass the practical exit exam, but what about the written? Naruto rolled his eyes at that. Because knowing what trees the Shodaime grew and his brother watered will really help me when I am against an opponent, Hokage-sama? Please don't tell me the world assumes that you became the third Hokage of Konoha for your stunning ability to recall facts about your two senseis? The Hokage smiled at that on the outside, however inwardly he was frowning. The boy has no desire to learn anything about the Hokages. When it comes time for him to learn about the Kyuubi when he turns 15, he won't be able to forgive his father. Naruto, but if you plan to graduate now, you are going to be far less physically developed than your other students. There are rarely any ninja that do such a thing for those reasons. The wise man said, attempting to sway Naruto to his views. Naruto rolled his eyes. Hokage-sama, you seem to forget, I practically live with Itachi, Rin, and Kakashi. The last 2 people to graduate the academy early, and the second coming of great Sannin Tsunade. Yes, I am less physically developed. I will work on that when I am given a team. However, my current competition is not even up to the level of skill I am at physical combat. So right now, I am content that on a team of 3 Junon and a Jounin, while I am smaller, and not as physically strong, I can still beat them in spars and have a far larger jutsu arsenal than them. The Hokage saw the perfect opportunity to ask and did so with, oh? What exactly is in your jutsu arsenal then, Naruto? Naruto flinched on the inside at having that asked. He gave too much information. The 3 from the academy, then this and that. The Hokage was clearly not impressed. Naruto, I must insist that as your leader it would be wise for you to tell me what you are able to do. I have no reason to betray your secrets. Naruto looked at his Hokage and said, then Hokage-sama, if you feel that I should be able to trust you enough to not betray my secrets, I second that motion, yet I feel that if you won't betray my secrets then you will have the confidence in me knowing what I am keeping from you is not a big deal, and you should not worry. Naruto finished with a smile. However, on the inside he and a table of judges were holding up 10s and 9s on the Uzumaki Naruto bullshit spitting contest. The Hokage sighed. He idly wondered how much he would be able to push Naruto for the information without pushing him away. He was about to press again, however the look the boy was giving him was rather unnerving. The Hokage relaxed his shoulders. Well then, I understand every great ninja has their secrets, Naruto. I only ask that when you file your graduating papers for the academy that you list your skills so that I know how far along your team is and what missions may or may not be too dangerous for you and your team. Naruto frowned but nodded. Yes, I understand. However, Hokage-sama, I do have one question for you. The Hokage smiled, glad he was making progress until he paled at the question, who is Uzumaki Kushina? The Hokage stroked his beard. Now why are you interested in her, Naruto? Naruto rolled his eyes and gave the Hokage a look that clearly said, are you serious? Oh, I don't know. She holds my family name? She gave birth to me? No reason, right? He said, voice laced with sarcasm. The Hokage looked away, seemingly finding a sudden interest in the small train of ants on the ground carrying crumbs from the lunch before. The Hokage licked his lips quickly before saying, well, you're right, She was your mother. She however died in childbirth. Naruto gave the Hokage a piercing gaze. Died like my mother Rin in the Uchiha massacre, or did she truly die Hokage-sama? He asked, voice moving from sarcasm to annoyance. The Hokage tilted his hat and looked up saying, she died in childbirth. Naruto knew that by the confidence and the trouble saying that, there was more to the death of Uzumaki Kushina. Naruto stood up and prepared to go to class. Well Hokage-sama, I am running late, I must be going. The Hokage nodded, and asked one more time, any chance you would at least list a couple jutsu outside of the academy jutsu? Naruto began walking off and turned to the Hokage, to be honest Hokage-sama, you refused to answer any questions that I had for you truthfully. I just see no reason to lead you on a journey of false hope with answers that aren't true, so I will opt to not answer your questions. Naruto then walked into the building, allowing the Hokage to watch his retreating form. Sarutobi knew that his relationship would be strained with Naruto due to his actions, however he did not know how strained. He was just glad that the conversation didn't go into the actions he did to his family. The old man sighed and went back off to his office. It would be a long road to attempt to get Naruto to see his views. He would hate for it to come to the point where his old friend would feel the need to put him down. Naruto. I was expecting you in my class 20 minutes ago, yelled the irate teacher. Naruto stepped into the class, not bothering to close the sliding door. He shrugged, that's funny, because I had no intention of being in your class 20 minutes ago. Naruto looked around the room, his first time actually being in the classroom. He spotted Tenchi and Takai sitting together at the top right side of the room. Below the two on the next row sat Teru with a couple guys on either side of her, both seemingly obsessed. The blue-haired girl sat in the top left of the room alone, with the sharpening set used on weapons out. Naruto calmly walked over to the front right side of the room where no one was sitting, which caused a chain reaction. Teru picked up her stuff and moved down to where Naruto was, annoying the boys sitting next to her in the process. Takai grabbed his stuff and followed Teru's example and moved down behind the two in the row above them. Naruto heard as Takai turned and started to motion for Tenchi to come down and sit next to him. However, due to the lack of footsteps and the rather loud huff given from a female, he could tell she wasn't coming. Iruka was at the front of the class, now clearly annoyed. That's a new seating chart I have to fill out. Iruka cracked his knuckles and said, anyways class, now I am sure I have told this to you before, however the final exams are coming up in a week. I must remind you that the test will consist of. Naruto tuned him out and decided to open his book and continue his reading. That was when the thorn in his side appeared. Teru sprawled her upper body on the table, arms crossed in front of her on the desk. She rested her chin upon her arms and casually read his nature manipulation book along with him. Naruto rolled his eyes at her posture. It was like that of a 5-year-old watching ants walk along the ground. Naruto skimmed a page, gathering the gist of the information and checking for any important parts, at which point after finding none he turned the page. Teru quickly whispered in order to not interrupt Iruka, "Hey! I wasn't finished reading that." Naruto turned to her momentarily and Teru frowned, "And I want to finish reading it." Naruto shrugged, "Read faster next time then." In truth, to him it was rather amusing for him to see Teru get flustered, but he wouldn't admit it. If he did, she would try to correct herself or stop herself from getting so flustered, and what would be the fun in that? Teru looked at Naruto in shock. "What? But, we are supposed to share knowledge, to help each other get better." Takai was quietly listening in and was rather curious to what Naruto had to say to that. Unknown to him, his best friend was also listening in from her lonesome spot in the top empty row. "No. Just because we are supposed to share knowledge, doesn't mean we need to share all of it. Just because we are supposed to share knowledge doesn't mean we have to. Imagine if we gave the scroll of sealing to Iwa, what would we do?" Naruto questioned Teru with a raised eyebrow. Teru pursed her lips, "But this is different, Naruto. I am not your enemy." Naruto shrugged. "When we first met, you viciously attacked me with a bowl of ramen. Sorry, but I don't think I will ever recover from that painful trauma you put me through. You ruined my favorite cloak." Naruto held his head in his hands in a fake sigh. On this inside he was just waiting for her to burst and interrupt Iruka. Teru wanted to growl, "You publicly stripped me in the middle of a fucking ramen stand, Uzumaki W. Only after the fact that you ruined my cloak." He cut in with a grin. Teru grit her teeth. "That doesn't matter, Naruto. You can trust me." She leaned in closer to him to make sure no one in the room could hear and whispered, "You know, I didn't lie when I said I was here for you. Why the hell can't you trust me?" She thought and went unheard, except for the blue-haired girl in the top left corner of the room. Naruto frowned. "You're an idiot. You don't get it, do you, Teru? There is such a thing as missing ninja that betray their village. Anyone can stab you in the back just as quick as they can protect it. That is the life of a ninja. That being said, I'm done with the book. You can borrow it for a while." He finished with a frown. It may have been a bit of a lie. However, she was his first friend in school. No need to collapse that relationship just because he liked messing with her. Tara looked at the book that got gently pushed to her. "No. It's fine. It is not nearly as fun trying to read it now knowing that I can," she said as she grinned at Naruto, who in turn rolled his eyes. Naruto turned to Teru quickly and said, "Teru, stop interrupting class." Teru gave him a quick questioning glance and said, "Hey, I'm not interrupt," she squealed loudly as Naruto tickled her ribs while she was talking. Interrupt Hiruka and causing all attention to shift to her. She turned beet red, and quickly left the room with a quick, "I'll be right back." Naruto assumed it was embarrassment, if only he knew that Teru was actually blushing at Naruto's touch. Up at the top of the room, a girl was finally starting to warm up to the blonde, and moved her stuff down next to her best friend to join the circle of friends. Naruto sighed, rolling his neck. The Junon exam was pathetic. Just as Rin had said, the 3 basic academy jutsu. There were of course written tests, but did Konoha really expect their ninja to be ready for the hard life with jutsu that even some civilian can perform? It was a bit insulting really. It felt like he was just getting by with this graduation. He was sure he was way more than prepared to be a ninja, but that was because of his upbringing. Their entire class had passed the Junon test, and he knew that he could crush most of them if he felt like it. He was only a Junon, an advanced Junon, but a Junon nonetheless. What did they think a Chunin would do to them? He couldn't complain too much. He wouldn't have liked the concept of killing Teru, Tenchi, or Takai in a Junon test. The mist was interesting in those regards. Every village had their quirk, their gap in shinobi power. It was always somewhere in their ranks. Suna was known for having exceptional Junon, but has had the weakest Kijis in history save the 3rd Kazekage. Mist was known to have strong Junon, and weaker ninja all around, however their specialized ninja were the best in the world. The 7 Shinobi Swordsman was a good example of their powerful, exceptional ninja. Not much information has made its way out since their civil war, however it was the most up-to-date information they had. There was Kumo that was known for their strong Jounin, and extremely strong single ninja. Supposedly they had a ninja that guarded the village that could beat their cage. Their cage was widely known to be the current strongest cage, tied with the Sandaime Hokage. However, Kumo's cage was considerably younger. Iwa was in a struggle. Many of their good ninja had been killed either by a terrorist organizations or war. They were known for good all-around ninja, with brilliant Kijis accompanied by 2 exceptional ninja. Konoha was interesting. They were viewed as the strongest due to their strong teamwork. Junon teams known to take on several Chunin. They, like the other villages, had a gap, but it wasn't big as other villages. They normally had strong Junon, alongside strong Jounin. Their weak point was they had a large bulk of average Chunin, however it allowed them to take on more missions than any other village, securing their spot as the greatest shinobi village in the world currently. Naruto however didn't care. He knew of the other Junon exams of other villages. Konoha's was pretty pathetic. With it working or not, he couldn't help but feel weak in comparison. Naruto looked up to the sky from the swing he was sitting on and squinted his eyes. It was right after the graduation, which took place during lunch. The sun shined brightly into his eyes, forcing him to turn away and look over to the academy entrance. Many families were with their children. Tenchi and Takai were both being hugged by 2 adults. They both shared a striking resemblance to Tenchi. It only solidified Takai's statement about living with Tenchi. Teru was standing around holding her headband in her grasp. Next to her were 2 men. One was a tall and large dark-skinned man. He had on black suit with black shades. His ears had several piercings along them. He stood with his hands behind his back and watched Teru as she stood looking around frantically. Next to the tall black man stood a shorter white woman. She had blonde hair that was shorter in the back than the front, bangs pushed to the right side of her face. She had a small bandage on her right cheek near her chin that caused Naruto to raise an eyebrow at her before going back to observing. She too was dressed in a similar black suit to the male next to her. She had chocolate brown eyes that showed concern as she watched Teru look around as if she was searching for something. Naruto leaned back as he waited for lunch to pass. Unlike his students, he didn't have anyone to congratulate him upon graduating. He wouldn't show it, but it bothered him that his family wasn't around. It was as if they all decided to up and leave him one day. Sure, this graduation wasn't exactly what some of the family members had wanted when they were around, but it was something they allowed once they were gone. That was all that mattered. He always thought his graduation would be fun, spend a day at a training ground learning new jutsu, spar against his father figures. It didn't look like any of that was going to be possible now, however. He at least made some friends in his current class. Teru, Tenchi and Takai were all pretty down to earth. He came to realize that the reason that he couldn't stand his former class is that, where every one of them is busy goofing off and having fun in the early academy classes, Just learning what it meant to be a ninja. Most of those things he knew instinctively since he was 6. It didn't help that after he turned 6, he was practically thrusted into a household with some of Konoha's greatest ninjas. He now wished he hadn't let Teru take that book of his, at least he could be doing something during lunch. Lunch was something they weren't serving at the academy today. Normally when a team is created it is often tradition for the senseis to take them out to eat and get to know them. Itachi had already told him about the True Genon test, which was about teamwork. If you failed that test, you would end up being sent back to the academy. Rarely you would even have to stop being ninja. Itachi had revealed to him that he wasn't supposed to tell him that. However, he also told him that information is just as good of a tool as a ninja's jutsu arsenal, sometimes even better. Itachi was almost like an encyclopedia sometimes, he was able to speak as if it was coming straight from a book. Precise, key details. Never too many that you can't remember the main idea, and never too little that you can't grasp the main idea. As Naruto's thoughts trailed on Itachi, he calmly pulled out the wakizashi Itachi had left for him. It wasn't like most standard wakizashi, while it was the same size and shape. The black blade was serrated near the end of the blade. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that this would be something Itachi would use. Not for the fact that it was a wakizashi, a close combat weapon that was probably one of the most effective if used properly. No, the thought that the blade was made to be perfect for Itachi's use. An assassin, a combat ninja, if Itachi was ever going to stab that blade into an opponent, then pull it out, he would be pulling out much more than the weapon with a shark tooth-like blade. He sheathed the blade and returned it to his pocket. He was happy to hear the bell ring signifying that the lunch was over, and they would be assigned their team shortly. Naruto took his time making his way into the academy, being the last to go inside. He looked back at the swing, a spot he spent a good majority of his time at during the academy before going back inside. He didn't see the woman dressed in all white sitting on top of the roof above the academy entrance, swinging her legs off the side of the roof as she munched on an apple. Naruto walked down the hall, all the while she hummed to herself a little tune as she tilted her head back and forth smiling to herself. Naruto had been ignoring the friends around him, in favor to listen to the team assignments, much to Tenchi and Teru's displeasure. Naruto decided to get a quick read-in of the book he would likely not see for a while after Teru took it. Team 4 will consist of Uzumaki Naruto, Homura Tenchi, and Hiei Itachi. Your sensei Ayame will be here shortly. Iruka drawled as he read off of his paper. Naruto frowned a bit. He was personally hoping Teru could have been on his team. He was blessed to be on a team with Takaya and Tenchi, but he didn't know them as well as Teru. He chose to stay silent about this, however he was able to catch Teru's displeasure with the team assignments as well. It was written all over her face. Finally, Team 5 will be Tanaka Teru, Reina, and Katami Aya. Your sensei will be. He paused as his eyes widened. He should be paying attention more when he read because this was certainly a surprise. This is surprising. Your senseis are supposedly going to be 2 ninja altering in when they have free time. Amaya Kimi, and our elder Danzo. The room didn't even have time to recover from their shock, or in Naruto's case mild surprise. Naruto's attention quickly shifted to something else. A woman walked through the door. She seemed out there? She didn't appear to be paying much attention, her eyes gave off a soft bored look making her appear spacey. She was licking a red lollipop gently right in front of her face. If you only paid attention to that of her appearance, she would have appeared like a harmlessly lost civilian. However, in her left hand, hanging loosely, she held a large dagger with 2 serrated indents. Unlike Naruto's wakizashi, hers was fairly big and you could even see remnants of its recent active use on the blade. Her appearance was deceiving. She had long gray hair, even though she wasn't old. She wore a yellow undone hat, often worn by the brunette chef at the Ichiraku ramen stand. She had black goggles resting on top of the hat holding it in place. She had a yellow bikini top with its bow in the front holding back her bust from the general public. You can see that she had a fishnet undershirt, since her stomach was revealed to everyone. Her pink top lazily hung on her shoulders, left open revealing her chest. The top was tied off by a yellow belt that held it together in the center before once again splitting at the legs to reveal her skin-tight yellow shorts. She was cute, she had a pretty face. Her soft hazel eyes, her hair. Her childish appearance as she sucked on the lollipop. Everything about her, her looks, the smell she gave off. Naruto's observations stopped as she opened her mouth and paused before saying in a soft, seductive voice, "Team 5 please come with me." Naruto frowned, even her voice invited you in. However, to the trained eye, you could see from her toned body, and the way that she carried herself that she was ready for any sort of combat that could come her way. The 3 different colored-haired girls quickly made their way out the door, Teru of course snatching Naruto's book before they left with their assigned sensei following. However, she stole one last, relatively long glance at Naruto before she left. Once she left, the room erupted in whispers about Danzo, and the woman who didn't look like a very strong shinobi. The latter made him scoff. They were talking as if she didn't seem like a good shinobi, and she could likely cripple most jounins with ease judging from her presence. The question that he wanted to ask was, why was Danzo and this highly trained ninja taking interest in a team of Genin? The ninja that came in after caused Naruto to raise an eyebrow. She did not look like a Konoha ninja. She was decked in blue. She had dark blue eyes, blue hair. A bit of hair on the side of her face was wrapped with a dark blue band. She had light skin. The top of her hair was covered by a dark blue bandana, with the center of it having a metal plate with the Konoha emblem on it. She had a blue gi tied off with a large blue ribbon that made a bow on the front of her stomach. She had a dark blue sash that fell and covered the majority of her short blue shorts. She had long blue boots, that looked as if they did nothing to cover her long legs. She had a large blue blade on her back. It idly reminded Naruto of the blade of Zabuzamomochi he had seen in a bingo book. However, there were some big key differences. Her blade curved inwards twice near the top on the way down. Almost as if when crafting the blade, they broke off 2 circles of the metal. This resulted in 3 very sharp points near the top of the blade. It actually looked like the top half of a heart had been cut from the blade, but he couldn't really tell. He could only assume. It was a large blade, and she seemed to act as if it wasn't weighing her down in the slightest, a test to her extreme physical fitness. The strangest thing he saw in her blade that reinforced his beliefs that she did not appear to be a Konoha ninja were on the blade. Near the hilt of the blade, clearly carved into it was the Mist Village emblem. That put Naruto on guard, as he grabbed his things and walked by her to the door. She appeared to notice this and raised an eyebrow at him as he walked by, something he hadn't missed, however chose to leave unacknowledged. They settled on going to a seafood restaurant. Their sensei, Ayame, said she would only pay if they went to a seafood restaurant. Naruto had refused to talk on the way there, only to occasionally throw in snide and condescending remarks, normally on Tenshi's behalf. She would talk about her training, or her practice of elemental manipulation. Naruto would then proceed to thoroughly attack how she had been training, and tell her a way that would be more effective, and why he was right and she was wrong. After the 3rd time she was so frustrated she refused to talk anymore. Naruto would have done it to Takai as well, however he seemed to choose his words more wisely around Naruto. He obviously didn't like the concept of being bagged on. Takai and Ayame made small chat on the way to getting seafood. They stopped right in front of a large restaurant that gave off the smell of fish. There was a large fish tank right when you walked in. You could see across the room, and all the people grabbing a late lunch at the tables. At the end of a row of tables resided a large lobster tank, small air bubbles rising to the top. "Ayame, we were expecting you," said a female waiter cheerily. She passed by everyone in the small line and grabbed Ayame by the hand and began to drag her along. She ignored the shouts of "Hey, we were here first," and the like. She sent them to a booth near the back of the restaurant, where they wouldn't be bothered by other people. She quickly ushered everyone in and had them sit down in a rather bubbly way. Tenshi and Ayame sat on one side, across from him and Takai. The bubbly quickly swooped in and sat next to Naruto with a large smile on her face. "So what will you all be having today?" she asked cheerily as she flipped to a new page on her notepad and tapped her pen. Naruto looked rather amused at Kasumi, her name tag read. Everyone at the table seemed to have the same thought in mind. "Aren't you going to let us look at the menu first?" asked Tenshi with a raised eyebrow. The look Kasumi got made him bite his lips to attempt to restrain himself from laughing. She looked so shocked at the idea of someone needing a menu. "What? Friends of Ayame-chan's needing a menu?" She gave a shocked expression before doing a quick shift into a pout and sending a glare at the blue-haired girl across from her. "No. I see how it is, you are taking all of your friends to other places now, aren't you? You no longer bring them around here anymore, that's why they don't know the menu." She actually looked hurt. Ayame rubbed the back of her head. "I told you, Kasumi-chan, I don't have many friends, and no, this is my newly assigned team and my first time taking them here. As for taking my so-called friends to other places, I am here nearly every other night, Kasumi-chan, no need to stress." Naruto smirked and mumbled, "So that was the fish I smelled," he said quietly, however it was still heard by everyone at the table. It gained various reactions out of people, from Tenshi and Takai to chuckle, Ayame to blush, and Kasumi to beam. "Yes, I bet it was what you smelled. Our fish." Naruto looked at with a cocked eyebrow. "What exactly do you have, Kasumi?" he asked, interested in how she was going to continue. "The best in Konoha, not even the mist can be. We have everything. Clams, mussels, crab, lobster, scallops, prawns, trout, She continued to go on and on about seafood, all the while oblivious to the team shooting. Ayame looked at clearly asked, "Is she your friend, Kasumi?" Ayame began, however she continued listing the things they had on their menu. Naruto took this opportunity to cover Kasumi's mouth with his hand as Ayame quickly got out, "We will just have the fried calamari today, Kasumi-chan." But Kasumi started, only for Ayame to nearly snap at her. "Kasumi. Just the calamari." She finished with a sigh. The waitress frowned, but proceeded to skip off to process the order. Once she was out of earshot, Tenchi said the thought on the new teammates' minds, "What the fuck?" She finished with a laugh. She gave an unladylike grunt as she laid back and said, "This is too good, I'm on a team with a child." Before she could even get another word out, Naruto cut in, "That knows far more about being a ninja than you do." Tenchi paused, gritting her teeth before continuing, "And a sensei with a fish fetish." Said woman's eyes widened before narrowing, and pushing her student out of the booth and into an ungraceful heap on the floor. "I don't have a fish fetish." Naruto found the salt rather interesting, but couldn't help but say, "Of course you don't. That is why you come here every other day, and not every day, right?" That earned a chuckle from Takai and a roll of her eyes from Ayame. She felt she was going to have an interesting time with this team. Ayame cleared her throat with a cough before smiling and looking to her new team. Normally a sensei is supposed to go through a whole bunch of crap such as, "Can you all tell me a little bit about yourself?" However, I don't believe in that. This is going to be my second team I have trained, so I like to think I know a bit about what I am doing. I won't force you to share anything you don't want to. In the life of a shinobi everyone has their secrets, and that is understandable. However, I would like to ask all of you that, when you feel that you can trust your teammates with your lives on the battlefield, you trust them with your lives on a personal level. She finished that with a smile. That was certainly not what Naruto was expecting. Kakashi, Rin, and Itachi both would often tell him about their first Shinon meeting. How their sensei would tell them to share a bit about their lives, then some test. Naruto narrowed his eyes a bit. Is there some sort of test? Ayame's blue eyes locked with his ring, and she looked at him with a raised eyebrow. Why would you think that there would be some sort of test? Naruto shrugged. I heard there was a teamwork test. Ayame rolled her eyes at that statement. Well, not anymore. She grunted. Normally there is. Personally, I don't think they are very useful. Teamwork builds over time, not instantaneously. The test requires the team to be expected to work together, normally with people they don't even know, and sometimes people they don't like. Who exactly told you about this test anyways, Naruto? Naruto was about to say Kakashi, however Kakashi was still loyal to Konoha and could get in trouble, so he chose the next best person. Uchiha Itachi. He added in the long pause that Itachi always had given when introducing himself. It left people on edge, and hanging on every word. It was likely because the Uchiha were famous and dangerous. The first name is what made or break the person. Ayame looked rather shocked at that bit of information, as did the two teammates. Naruto may have mentioned Itachi in passing to them over the past day or so, but nothing much. They always had thought that he just lived with his mother Rin, who was a teacher medic nin. Ayame was surprised by the fact that the boy was close enough for Itachi to be willing to break a law to tell Naruto something. Interaction between him and Itachi wasn't even documented in the various files on the boy, and she was for sure that he had more files than even some adult ninja in the village. Well, that is interesting. Too bad I won't be able to ask him why he told you about the test. Naruto avoided her eyes and calmly said, information is one of a shinobi's greatest tools. Ayame looked at Naruto and put her elbows on the table, resting her chin in her hands. Oh really, and did Itachi tell you that as well? She said, a small smile gracing her lips. The boy interested her. Naruto didn't say anything. The group of them just made small talk the remainder of the time eating. Naruto however didn't talk much. He was busy with a jutsu in his head that was annoying him to no end. The team decided later on that evening to part ways, and meet at the Hokage's office early morning the next day. Ayame wanted a C-rank mission, and it may take a while for her to get it. Naruto had taken to reading a jutsu left to him by Itachi. It was basically how to do water shockwave with one-handed seals. You make the seals with one hand, and force the shockwave to start from another. It was actually very simple, and very useful. He was currently sitting in the corner of the Hokage's office trying to block out the argument between Iruka, Sarutobi, and Ayame. It was rather interesting to say the least. My contract strictly says that I would not have to do D-rank missions, yelled Ayame as she crossed her arms staring at the two ninja before her. Ayame-san, these are fresh Shinon. They need to work on teamwork before getting C-rank missions. Iruka tried to reason with her. Ayame snapped her head to him and glared, saying, learn your place, Chunin. Putting emphasis on the title, as if it was something to be ashamed of. However, it worked. Iruka seemingly shrank into his chair, thoroughly changing the argument from the three of them to just between Ayame and the Hokage. The Hokage took a drag of his pipe as Ayame yelled at him, "This contract." She waved a paper with her photo on it, clearly states that I will not have to do D-rank missions regardless of my position in Konoha. The old Hokage sighed, he didn't need this. Fine Ayame, you have been in here for 3 hours waving your contract in my face. Do you think they are ready? Do you think that you can teach them teamwork in the heat of battle? Let me also remind you exactly who you are talking to. He finished as he stood up, slamming his hand on the desk before him. Ayame didn't look as confident as she had been in the past few hours. She seemingly forgot that she was attempting to boss around one of the strongest people in the world at the moment. She took a step back and gave a short bow. "Of course not, Hokage-sama," she said quietly. His cold gaze set everyone on edge. He grabbed a paper off his desk and said, "Fine, please leave. Take this." He tossed the paper he held to Ayame. "I will personally cripple you if they get hurt on this mission." The Hokage gave out the threat in such a calm voice as he fixed his robes and sat back down in his chair, casually putting the fire shadow hat on his head. Naruto couldn't help but stare. He had never seen the Hokage act like that before. He could remember him as the caring old man that everyone loved when he was a little kid. It was a different side of the Hokage that he hoped he wouldn't have to see again. Ayame stood up stiffly and walked out, ushering her students along with her. She looked down at the paper and couldn't help but frown. Of all places in the world that she could have gotten a mission, it had to be the barren Northfall. That's the end, guys. If you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a comment. This is Chaos Shinobi signing off.